There we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to round 4 of the Davey Back Fights, and I'm here with none other than Par Vision, the man who probably needs no introduction on the channel at this point. He's been on here before, I've been on his channel, so as the title says, Oda watches our channels, and we're definitely going to get into that at some point, because I'm sure at least some of you have heard about Par maybe catching a few W's, or at least near W's recently, but we will get into that. First, I want to give a big shout out to Mr. Bushido for giving me... Oh, no way, bro. Bushido, we'll get to it, but bro, that's crazy. Do you box normally or like fight or?
Yeah, I do. But I've taken a little bit of a break because Zen. But as soon as he can throw hands, we throwing hands.
That's crazy, bro. Thank you for bringing those out for the occasion. I can't believe I don't have a pair. You know what I mean? Bro,
I was gonna ask. I was like, "Do you have one?" I was gonna ask before stream, but I told you why. I was just so busy. So I was just like the viewers might have saw my face. I was like, "Oh wait, where are the gloves?" And I realized I brought them earlier just in case, just for the stream. So I'm looking forward to round 5 when you bring out the blue gloves.
Oh yeah, dude, that's actually a good idea. I'll bring blue gloves, and I think you and I talked behind the scenes a little bit. Where like maybe down the road, especially if the Afro stuff ends up coming true, we'll have to like get actual Afros for the contestants. You know what I mean?
Oh, like, you don't have to worry about that. I already I went on multiple streams and said if the Afro thing comes true, we're going to the salon. We're getting like Afros stitched into our hey, it's all paid for you don't have to pay for anything, and we'll go. We're gonna have a huge party. Everyone's gonna have Afros.
Wouldn't it be crazy if it came true and Oda like reached out to me or something? You know what I mean? He's like, man, or maybe there's even like Japanese YouTubers who have done the same thing. You know what I mean? Like for all I know, but it would just be like, I don't know, some kind of congratulations. Like, yep, that was it. Like you guys saw into my brain enough.
I think
Oda
would adopt you. You know what I mean? Like if
I'm down.
If he finds out that like you predicted that Afro is the One Piece, I think he would adopt you. Like he'd probably love you more than his own kid. I'm joking.
Bro, hey, I'll fly there with the adoption papers, like the citizenship forms.
Sorry, parents.
Bro, yeah, dude, that would be amazing. Real quick, I want to get into Mr. Bushido super chat that he sent an hour before the stream. Major shout out to Mr. Bushido. And Par, you could already guess something that's in the super chat, but he said Atlas is sus, name of Saturn's moon, PS carrot by Easter. So Par, what just quick thoughts. You think carrot's coming back by Easter?
Carrot, Easter's April, right?
Yep, that's like a little over a month away.
Carrot can come back in the cover story. She ain't coming back on the boat. If that's what you're saying, I don't know. Is like the only thing is though, like Zunisha could just like roll up anywhere, right? Like technically Zunisha could just come to Egghead and just do nothing again, and then that would technically be like Carrot could fall from the sky, like it's like it could be like a Marineford situation, like Luffy fell from the sky, like Carrot just like comes down and just like hits the ground and then dies on impact, and then Mr. Bushido is just super sad. Either way, right? I could see it in the cover story.
Well, the funny thing about that though is like of all animals to jump off of something as tall as Zunisha and be okay, it would be like a rabbit. You know what I mean? Because like they jump all the time. So that. The fact you brought it up, like we're already making connections here. You know what I mean? That's actually, shout out to Mr. Bushido for the carrot love. I mean, maybe there's something to it. I like the cover story idea though. That would be maybe like best case scenario. And then Terrible TJ with the $2 super chat says, Dakfro, I appreciate you, and I can tell you the Dakfro, the Afro that I'm gonna get for myself is definitely coming. I don't know if I mentioned it on stream or not. I know like I've been mentioning it in chats, but I want to get like a donation goal for like a really huge, legit Afro wig. You know what I mean? Like, because there's cheap ones, but like they don't really hold up and like don't look, like huge like Brooks does and stuff. You know what I mean? So.
Oh yeah. I'm sure you could find like Afro TikTok, and then they might be able to help you.
I mean, there's definitely ones I found online that are like kind of expensive, but they're like actual wigs. You know what I mean? Like. So we'll see. But building off of what Bushido said in the first part of a super chat, he said Atlas is sus, name of Saturn's moon. Obviously, we just had chapter 1077. So, Par, what are your thoughts on the traitor, or not even the traitor, but whoever the instigator is of all the stuff going on? What are your current thoughts?
I mean, so right now, I haven't had like a full day to like really synthesize to current situation with the ending of the last chapter, because it's like I had a few discussions where it's like if it's within Egghead, right? Like you almost want it to be a satellite at this point to be the person that outsmarted Vegapunk, right? Because it would be kind of crazy for someone else to outsmart a Vegapunk, and you could say that like oh, Stella doesn't really like care about those things. He's just focusing on inventions, focusing on science. But like Shaka like predicted that he would die, and you could say that it's like, oh, CP0 is gonna come, but when CP0 came, he was fully prepared, like fully prepared for most of all that. The moment that kind of fooled him was when the security dome went down. And so the security dome going down, you know, that implies that it's someone within, and it feels like that. But then Oda's creating a situation where it's almost like, nah, like it could be a third party. I like the Blackbeard angle. The reason why like third party also feels like it makes sense, and I'm going to include S Flamingo in a third party situation, in the sense of right now it's not introduced. So if S Flamingo comes in, then that's something that we couldn't really necessarily, it's not that we couldn't predict it, obviously the Seraphims and the Warlord, the connections there, but it's like I forget who I was talking to, but it's like it would be weird to me if when Shaka commanded all the Seraphims to go out and like defend Egghead, like one of the Seraphims or two of the Seraphims didn't go, and then for that not to be brought up, like when they saw the lineup of Seraphims, they would be like, huh, where's S Flamingo, huh, where's or S Bird and S Lizard, you know, like for Crocodile,
right?
Where would those be? And like for that to not be mentioned, it's like interesting. I like the gusto behind the S Flamingo, I'll say that much.
Yep.
And then when it comes to that the gun reveal, my thing about that is like, yeah, the Cypher Pole agents could have had guns, and like that could have been confiscated, and so someone on Egghead could be using that. But at the moment, nobody on Egghead currently primarily uses guns. And like the reason why that's significant is because in this situation, like writing wise, Oda would include that gun as a clue, right? And that clue would be relevant to who that person is. Oda's giving us literally less than crumbs. So those crumbs should be meaningful to who that person is. And I would want it to be, right? And I know a lot of people instantly saw the gun and went Blackbeard Pirates, like whether it be Van Augur, whether it be Shiryu, even Shiryu who uses swords, like they all essentially use guns on Blackbeard's crew. And I like that idea. Right now, and to Mr. Bushido's thing, yeah, I have the short about Atlas and how Atlas, you know, it's a double name, in the sense of like, yeah, it's a crater on the moon, but it's actually one of Saturn's moons. So now that Saint Saturn's on the way, it could be that Atlas is a double agent as one of Atlas's or one of Saturn's satellites. But you know, to fully answer what you asked me, I really like the like multiple angle perspective where there's multiple things happening all at the same time and they're lining up, and whether one person's behind all of them or some things are coincidentally happening, I think that would make it a lot easier to solve the problem. And I would really like it if Punk Records or some you know, programming error or Seraphim sentience, like that kind of angle. I would really like that because of the thematic around free will breaking like any kind of programming given to you, because that's such a cool, like that's making it like what the Gorosei and the world government do like on their own from a natural perspective, not natural, but from like a from a political perspective, right? This is what a programming perspective would be doing, and breaking free will is the entire point of the story, right? So I would like that angle to be included somewhere here.
Yeah, see, that's my thing. Is the Punk Records idea almost is like, well, it's my favorite, I think, for one, but it, like you're kind of saying, like the grandeur of it can tie into so many deeper plot lines in the story that we've been waiting for. So it's almost like I gravitate towards it for that reason, because I'm like, oh, if that's it, then we can start answering Void Century stuff. And it's just like it kind of cascades down. And one thing I want to bring up is, have you seen the face on the ceiling in one of the final panels? Do you know what I'm talking about?
The face
the
on
face
the ceiling.
Shout out to Adam Jinrakai on well, YouTube, but I saw it on Twitter. At least that's the first place I saw it. I don't know if other people have been talking about it, but towards the end of the chapter, I'm gonna pull it up myself real quick. I don't know if I'll be able to show it on stream easily, but it, like one of the, like whenever like you see the footsteps going back up the stairs, on the ceiling, it almost looks like a face. Like it looks like almost Emu's face, to be honest with you. Let me see if I can.
Yo, if it's Emu's face, the live stream went crazy with it. Then
it's like you can kind of see like a nose, like the stairs make like a nose, and there's like a light. You see, like almost looks like Emu's eye a little bit. It's like the panel to the right of Vegapunk, like with his eye wide open, like the very last panel.
Talking about that like gooey shadow thingy next to like the pipe looking thing.
Yeah, so like the very last panel with Vegapunk, you know, so like to the right of that, and then if you look at the top of that.
Adam tweeted it. Yeah,
Adam Jinrakai tweeted it, so you can go look at his. I shared it on my Discord as soon as I saw it. I know it's kind of crazy, but the eye, the one eye looks crazy. In my opinion,
what he's cooking. I mean, Adam is an artist, so
right.
I'll take his word for it.
It's definitely a little tinfoily, but like I definitely see the face. Like the second before I even read the tweet, I saw what he circled, and I was like, bro, that's a face, and that's exactly what he was saying.
Interesting.
Wait,
okay. To be fair, it looks like he's using like a quality of the scans that's less crisp than the TCB one, because the TCB one makes it like that first L thing. It looks like a pipe on my screen.
I think that could be like, again, it's a little tinfoily, but going to the Punk Records idea, like what if Punk Records, like the lab itself, like that's it, you know what I'm like, that's a fate, like the building itself is alive, right? Like the lab, because it's all connected. And like I know it's crazy, but that it's just the eye, like it is like a nose and like a like emu eye, like you can almost see rings in it, like at least the one, even on TCB. I can see like the one eye. That's the craziest part. But
yeah, the gooey part on the right side is what I thought you were referring to, and I'm like, honestly, that is kind of weird considering like the architecture of Egghead is very like futuristic, mechanical. You very rarely get things that are like that shaped unless it's like smoke randomly. But then why even include that detail right there? Is that like pipe bursting or something? Like I don't know.
And to build onto that, look where the Katak bubble, the one at the top at least, like they're pointing upwards at that face. You know what I mean? Like the little arrow that points like who's saying the Katak. It's like it's coming from the building. I know, again, super tinfoily, but
no, I'm gonna hit you. Now that you made me look at this panel extra close. You know, I was gonna have I'm not gonna have a detective stream on Sunday. I might have a timeline stream, but yo, if you look at the bottom right of that panel, you see a crescent moon. You see that?
Oh, it's like kind of like heavily bolded too. Yeah.
Yeah, right underneath the stairs, guys. It's like a random crescent moon, and so like in terms. Wait, no, that's also a pipe.
It's a pipe, but it's still like the way the pipe. It's the fitting on the pipe, but the way but the perspective makes it look like a moon. But still, that's.
You know what's crazy though? You would think like looking this close into the panels is like ridiculous, but. I forget what chapter it was, 1074, I believe, or 1074, I think it was. Like on the panels that Shaka had in front of him, it was like the most detailed little squares, and you could actually take away from that. And one of the things we did take away was the map, the 3D map, essentially the map that was on there. It was so tiny, but it ended up being super meaningful for the following chapters. So it's like. I wouldn't be surprised. And then like on top of all that, right? Shout out Mr. Bushido again, because like Oda's been designing every single background character to to almost a flawed level. Like it's crazy how much detail he's putting in. And like even the carrot haired bunny rabbit person in the background of like Sentomaru scenes, it's like, why is Oda including these details? Why is he going so hard on these background people, right? Like,
yeah,
it's crazy.
And I mean, I almost have to believe that there's a reason for it. You know what I mean? Like he's definitely doing it on purpose. Like there's, I don't know, like the one thing or one, I think it's I don't know if it's a mink or what it is, but the rabbit girl that's in Egghead or whatever, right? Like that's just, I mean, you know, it's just too obvious to me. So.
Yeah. I mean, if Punk Records, though, it ends up being sentient and alive, it can make faces like that. All I'm gonna say is that's foreshadow for my last video.
Oh yeah. Oh, and we're definitely gonna get into that once we've talked about the traitor a little more. That's definitely because I have a theory that is very similar, but builds onto another one of your theories, and I'm gonna save it because it's gonna. I think you're gonna be surprised. And maybe you've heard of it before, but I haven't heard it be spoken about.
I'm excited because I also have parts that I didn't include in that video, and I don't know where I wanted to include it, but like I couldn't fit it into that video because it would just be like I need to sell that first idea first, and then once people accept that, then this idea is crazier. And I've been meaning to send it to you because it so low key it conflicts with one of your theories, but I think one way or the other, it makes so much sense because we're talking about a similar thing. And this might be the best time.
Yeah.
We'll see based on the conversation if I'll bring it up on call or off call.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely see, or we can talk after because I mean, obviously, like you and I have some emu, like almost multiple emu thoughts at this point. You know what I mean? Possibilities. So you know, I'm definitely okay with certain things being conflicted because. I mean, if I'm wrong, it might just be better. You know what I mean? Real quick, I want to give a shout out to Matt Cypher for donating a bunch of bits in 10-bit increments. Thank you. First off, yep, on both. Thanks to, well, I should say thanks to Streamlabs, but it's honestly like the chat barely works sometimes, so Streamlabs needs to step it up. But he said, it's a pity we don't have S-Clown, aka Buggy. I don't know if we're gonna get Seraphims for the newer Warlords. Like, I think it's gonna be the original 7, if I had to guess. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if it were Buggy, then it'd have to be my theory where it's it's S fish, but you know, I think like this is my main thing, I guess, to say is like I don't know if it makes sense to bring in more Seraphims because like they introduced like a limiter at the beginning of money, and like considering that these Seraphims are already so small, like not small but they're children, right? Like I think it almost needs to be the original ones for it to fully make sense, because for it to be Buggy, then his Seraphim would be 2 years old, right? So
right, exactly. Like,
whereas the other warlords, since they were there, it's like, yeah, we connected it to Impel Down, but like Jinbei being an Impel Down might not be the only situation where his DNA was taken, right? It could have been at any point when he was a warlord. Whereas if it was Buggy, it would have to be within the last 2 years, and then it wouldn't be it would be S baby at that point, like unless because we do know that Germa clones age 20 years and 5 years, so if the Seraphims follow that route, which we have no confirmation for yet, then maybe. But then the S Buggy one would be smaller, which is actually something that most people don't even. I've talked about it with Sai, is that we actually do get that. Not all the Seraphims are the same ages. S Bear is considerably older than the other ones, because if it were the same age, then it would be the child warlords just like all the other ones. But this is not child Kuma. This is teenage Kuma. This is like miniature adult Kuma.
and that makes sense to like pretty much the rest of your argument, because Kuma's probably one of the first ones that they would have been testing on because he's been with Vegapunk for so long, right? So then that would tell you, well, if he's the oldest and then the rest of them are younger, then the newer warlords are not going to have time. Like maybe, like, you know how Robin was walking down the hall and found some like organs that were being made and all that kind of stuff? Maybe we'll find that like there's like the embryo of the new ones, you know what I mean? And maybe their will do something, like maybe they won't be totally irrelevant, but I agree with the sentiment that they're not going to be like old enough. But with that being said, I do think, you know, like Doflamingo and all the other original ones, like they're definitely, you know, they should have Seraphim. And like I think you mentioned it initially, a lot of people have brought up that like the Doflamingo Seraphim is, like S Flamingo is the one who's doing some of this, or at least could be one of the culprits. And I know you said you haven't had like a lot of time to digest the chapter, and honestly neither have I, but a little bit that I have had to digest is like the timeline, because I think that's the most important factor. Like we were just talking about the timeline with the Seraphims growing up, but obviously the timeline also with Cypher Pole 5, 7, and 8 or whatever they are that got captured, because that was 2 months ago. So like I love the Blackbeard idea, and it's still possible, especially Lafitte. I think that's like the most likely. But with like Shiryu, we didn't know Shiryu had that fruit till chapter like 925. It was Act 1 of Wano, and it was like chapter 956 or 7 when Blackbeard's like, let's go set sail, and then that's probably when they went right to Amazon Lily, which was a few weeks ago. So if we tie all that together, Shiryu didn't have his fruit till like it would have been after they started getting kidnapped, the Cypher Pole Age. But like we also saw him at Hachinosu, so if we saw him at Hachinosu a month ago, like it'd be really hard to come and go, you know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of timeline issues with a lot of the things. And even for S Flamingo, like I think you kind of alluded to this earlier too, it's like hard to imagine anyone other than a Satellite or Punk Records or Emu or something outsmarting Vegapunk, right? Like for 2 months, because Vegapunk, it was in his basement. Like it's not like it was locked away. That was the thing that blew me away this chapter, was Shaka's like, I know where it is, and he just walks down the steps. It's like, but wait, like it's like, to me that's like when people say like, oh, I had a homeless person living in my attic for 2 months and I didn't notice. It's like, bro, how? You know, and I know sometimes there are reasonable situations, but a lot of time it's your reaction is just, how is that possible? You know what I'm saying?
Now, sometimes the attic one is even less understandable, because in order for them to like move around, you'd hear it. Like it's not sound unless you have soundproof ceilings, which is like, that's sus. But like your basement is almost like more of like a hiding place than the attic. But like, you know, you go to your basement more often. I get some people don't go, like they don't maintain their houses like that, you know, and then they have other people do it, and then that's how horror movies start. But like on top of that, in the live reaction, I was like, when Shaka was like mid combat, like I know he wasn't fighting, but he's just like, wait a second, and then he just pieces out, and I'm like, wait, what do you mean? Like,
what how did that not come to him until now, like for the last 2 months? You know what I'm saying? Like, or even when Vegapunk first went missing, like what was the thing that was like, oh yeah, it's the basement, like the place that we don't ever go to ever? Like how was that never? It's almost like actually, now that I think about it, the title of the chapter is "You Should Have Figured It Out Sooner," and that's all. Like a lot. It's also obviously for Zoro. It's for Shaka.
Yeah, 100%. And like the Shaka thing, like it makes it confusing, because it's like a lot of people suspected Shaka, right? But then like, if he were somehow involved in the traitor thing, this is like the craziest like alibi cleaning situation I've ever witnessed in like fiction. Bro puts himself in the scene of the crime to get shot dead, like, or not, like whether he's dead or not, but like, you know, if he's faking it. Crazy if he planned it out, because then on top of that, he like told Dragon, right? I'd imagine it'd be about this, like, hey Dragon, I'm about to die. If he planned out, he's like, you know what, all this shit's gonna happen, I'm gonna walk down so that no one suspects me, and then that time, that's when you shoot me, pow, and then you're just like, but why? And I think, like, to shout out Taicho 4, right, I think like more than anything, especially at this point, because it's so hard to figure out who is the traitor, the real question is like, what are they even trying to do at this point? Like, it's so weird, it's so confusing, bro.
It's so crazy that you saw that chat from what was Taicho 4, right? It's so crazy you said that, because I noted that too, like mentally, and I was like, all right, I gotta get to the super chats, but then I want to talk about that, because that's how you're gonna find the answer, in my opinion, is you find out what's the motive, right? I mean, that's almost, this is a whole murder mystery, and honestly, motive in murder mysteries is like the majority of leads, like that's how you, like, I shouldn't say majority, but that's how you really get the culprit a lot of times, is like, all right, who would even do this, you know? And then you so yeah, go for it.
So this is something I might be, you know, putting my own opinion on Detective Conan here, but like the reason why I did that initial detective stream was because Detective Conan felt this like even you pointing out that shadow in the ceiling, like that's some like looking at shadows, looking for every little detail, like that's a Detective Conan type of feeling. But we know that Oda if not best friends, great friends with the writer of Detective Conan, right? He told him the ending of One Piece like 20 years ago or however many years ago, and then before Film Red came out, he did the interview. We know more than well that he probably is talking to him for this arc or has talked to him about this. And something in that to it's not spoiling Detective Conan, but there is like Detective Conan is basically like 5% canon, like 10% plot essentially. 5% canon meaning that like there's like that many episodes are related to the actual story. 10% of it is canon or 10% of his plot in the sense of in the other episodes there are mysteries that are being solved and they randomly connect to the greater plot. They're completely like random things, like this bakery the guy gets murdered, or like the guy at the mechanic shop, his tires go missing, and you solve all these things, and the conspiracy is like, the normal detectives are just like, who took the tires? But the main character is basically like, is this connected to this organization? And he's constantly thinking about that. And then what ends up happening in those certain set of episodes I'm talking about is like, when you think that like that organization's involved, you go into conspiracy mindset. Oh my God, they're doing this. This is why they're doing it. And then the episode resolves. It's like, oh no, it was just the cat. Like the cat ended up doing this random craziness, right? And then at the very end, like in the epilogue of the episode, no, you see that that organization was pulling the strings behind it all, right?
Wow.
And that's how I feel like this, and that's why
With
I
Shaka?
love Detective Conan. So not just Shaka, but like there's almost two ways you can go here. You could go that whoever's doing this is outside of Egghead and expands the Egghead cast in a way, right? Like the world government, Saturn, like he's actually pulling all of these strings. Like months and months ago, he got in contact, he set the seed, like the Cypher Pole agents were essentially like the one person was masquerading in there, and that person's Katarina Von, like some crazy conspiracy theory, right? Or you could go the other route that actually minimizes and keeps Egghead constrained and contained within itself. And like one angle to look at that would be like Stussy, right? Like Stussy's within Egghead, and we know her to be on CP0 side. We know her to be on Vegapunk side. Like we don't know much about Stussy, but we're just trusting her, right? It almost feels like she could be one of the kinds of characters that could be behind all of this, right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. That's probably my most likely guess is Stussy or Stussy, however you want to pronounce it. But because of what you're saying, like we've already seen that she can hop sides, and she's like smart. If she's smart enough to work around CP0 and CP0 never find out that she's actually a traitor for them or whatever till now, I mean, come on, right? Like that. I mean, she could definitely do that right back to Vegapunk. But real quick, I want to get to a couple super chats, but I saw one most recently from our boy the Hidden Island, super chatting $5, saying can't stick around since I haven't read the chapter yet, but I wanted to show some support. Much love, bro. And guys, if you haven't somehow heard of Hidden Island yet, definitely check him out. He's reacting to the chapter tomorrow. And he also just dropped an amazing Zoro video that I only watched a couple minutes of, but I have saved for actually after the stream. So definitely go check that out. The thumbnail's amazing. Shout out to Lee J for the thumbnail.
Beautiful one. Yeah.
Yep.
Wait, did Hidden move his streams to Saturdays? Today's Friday, right?
In the description of his video, it said that his I think he said his bro's, I don't know if he meant actual brother or not, but he said his bro's birthday is today, and so he was busy today, so he's just doing it tomorrow. It's not normally.
Damn,
so
I thought I was lacking, but makes sense.
Yep. Real quick, Matt Cypher, some of your other bits from earlier. Do you think Punk Hazard Lab has foreshadowing for this fight? I think just like opposing opposing Punk Hazard, where Daffy arrived late. I think Boa will arrive on time to help Luffy's crew. That's an interesting parallel, thinking about Doflamingo arriving late. And I think Punk Hazard almost has a Saba Odi feel to it a little bit, just where like the island's blowing up and they had to escape, and Saba Odi obviously got pawed away. So there's like similar vibes where they just have to leave for whatever the reason is. So I like that. It's actually an interesting. That's like one of those things I might have to think about more, because I didn't even think about. I mean, obviously Punk Hazard connects to this arc, obviously, right? For being just a lab that's going to blow up and all that. So I haven't really even thought about. Like, I don't know if Punk Hazard maybe even has some hints to who the traitor could be potentially. You know what I mean? Maybe, because these arcs do connect. That might be worth looking into. Real quick. Hold on, Streamlabs is freaking out. Okay, Mr. Bushido, thank you for the €10 super chat. What happens to Law? I think either Katakuri shows up for Pudding, or Fujitora shows up and chases Blackbeard away and then arrests Law. Law would meet Doflamingo and join Cross Guild. Oda also keeps hinting at Carrot this arc. Why? There's no Yamato hint. That's pretty funny. But as for Law, I think Law is getting coerced into working with Blackbeard. That's my guess. What do you think's gonna happen with Law, if you had to guess?
I mean, minimum, he's not dead. Maximum, the Blackbeard, working with Blackbeard angle is interesting to me, because, you know, something that we don't get a sense of from Law is he kind of is open to a lot of things, right? Like, he was working with Doflamingo for how many years, right? Like, even if he was with Blackbeard, I wouldn't be like, Law is a guy who has ulterior motives. His entire life is an ulterior motive, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So him working with Blackbeard wouldn't be necessarily the craziest thing, especially like when you think about like when he regarded Buggy, he was just like, oh, that guy must be competent, right? Like, he doesn't really know Buggy, hasn't really heard of him. Blackbeard's this guy who has been in the news recently, but like, what reason does Law have to not work with Blackbeard? You know, it's kind of like we aren't necessarily given any reason why he wouldn't or couldn't or shouldn't. And the last thing being is like, when we, you know, the primary thing that we left Law with on Wano was his intention to learn more about the D-Clan, and Blackbeard probably knows a thing or two about the D-Clan. So you know, from the very beginning, I always thought like, I wonder if like this is how we as like the viewers end up learning about the D-Clan, because like Law gets some exposition that Luffy and the crew don't get, which would be kind of cool, because we would have that information. We would just be waiting for Luffy to kind of like know about that. It would create suspense in a situation that we couldn't really create otherwise. It naturally, at least, Law and Blackbeard, you know, that happening is crazy. But now that they are together, you can flesh out the D-Clan in a really cool way, and then for the rest of the story until Luffy finds out, or maybe he doesn't find out. But we would, it's like kind of like Nika, right? Like, Nika isn't something that he knows. The Gorosei told us that, but that's not something that he necessarily innately knows, and we're almost waiting for the day that he finds out. And when he finds out, it might just be like, whatever, I'm still rubber, right?
100%.
Like that. And with the D-Clan, it could be something like that. It's like, why do I care about these people? But it's like, it still like matters, you know what I mean? So
right.
It could be something like that.
Like I just dropped a video that talked about the Will of D, like tying to Davy Jones and the whale and all that, and I can see that where like somebody explains like what the Will of D is or something, and he's like, I don't care. But then if they explain like, oh well, there's like an animal that needs your help or something to that effect, you know, then he's like, oh well, you should have just said that, you know, like So I 100% agree with that. And as it pertains to Law, I think one thing that I need to hurry up and do this video on, because I think there's a connection that nobody has noticed yet between Blackbeard's crew and Law, and that is and maybe I've mentioned this theory to you before, but I don't want to get too in depth, but I think there may be a crew member that knows some stuff about white lead, and potentially even like Law's sister or family, because like we never actually saw Law's sister die. Like, we can like presume it or whatever, and I'm not saying she's alive, but I'm just saying I think there's someone on Blackbeard's crew that knows a lot about Flevins and white lead, and I think that is going to tie into how Law gets
on Blackbeard's crew.
Yeah, on Blackbeard's crew. I'll just say this. I don't want to like. It's a great thing. I'll say this. Law has similar attire to one of Blackbeard's crew members, and I think that tie goes extremely deep.
You
I think,
it.
and I
didn't tell me this, but now I connected the dots.
And it's just it's a teaser for a future video, because I think I think there's gonna be a tie here where that might be how Law gets leveraged into be forced to work.
That's not a teaser. People are just gonna look at it and find out immediately. Like,
but there's so much more to it. Yeah, well, that part it's all good.
Yeah,
it's all good.
That part they can figure out.
I just don't want to get too far into it, because I don't want all the dots to connect. This dot can connect.
True,
but
that's fair.
Yeah.
That's a healthy. Dang, you do teasers differently than me. I keep it cryptic still, and then like have people spiral out of control.
Yeah, well,
and you're like, nah, here you go. Here's a solid one.
Well, there's like 100 people here. Maybe like 10 of them maybe will go and actually look, and then maybe a couple of them will chat it, and then you know whatever. If a couple people figure it out, but they don't know all the connections. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna wonder. I mean, I know what one of Blackbeard's crew members' fruits are that hasn't been revealed yet. I'm like, that's actually like 100%. That's like my favorite part of the theory. But
that's a healthy. Oh, I like it.
Mythical zone. I'll say that mythical zone.
Ooh, but I mean, I'm on the mythical zone, but you already sold me. I want that to happen. So.
Well, everyone get hyped for that. Actually, in speaking of getting hyped for videos, Chopper video coming out this weekend, and. It's actually a perfect segue into another super chat from Aramaki Stan account. Thank you for the $10 super chat, bro. I love that name. Green Bull would have figured out who the traitor was months ago. Hey, bro. Honestly, I don't doubt it. Unless Shank showed up, then he'd be freaking out. But the reason why we'll talk about that in a second. But the reason why Aramaki, why I don't think you're gonna like my Chopper video is I have a different idea for the forest god than Green Bull, and talk about it in that video. So I don't know if you're gonna like that, but I love the name. But hey, I feel like Green Bull doesn't get enough respect. Honest, I mean it's Shanks. You know, I would do the same thing if Shanks flexes hockey. You know what I mean? So
fair enough.
Man. Streamlabs is not. I just need to enlarge this section. Oh, that'll help. Okay. Matt Cypher with some more bits. This arc reminded me of a book and a movie called The Three Were None, about a lot of people stuck on an island and someone is killing everyone. Also, Par, have you read Treasure Island? I swear it feels like an inspiration for One Piece. And I have not read it, but he sent it to me. Have you read that before?
I have it. I had it tabbed out like 7 different times, and then I didn't intentionally close it out. But I know of it. I should read it. I said I was gonna read it on stream actually, because it's not that long. So.
Oh wow.
I haven't read it yet.
Oh, I didn't know. Oh, if it's not that long, then maybe.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's that long.
Okay.
I think it's like there's like at least what I saw. It's like you could read it fairly quickly.
Okay. That's all. That's always my barrier. Is like, man, like. It's funny because like we love One Piece, which is like the longest story ever, but whenever there's something else long, I'm like, bro, I don't know. But I'm definitely gonna check that out, Matt Cypher. I know I still have I mean, you obviously DM'd it to me, so I have it. But Gintone, thank you for the $5 super chat, bro. Everyone go check out Gintone. He just dropped a video, finally, my man, finally. I really hope this is a fake out by Shaka. This feels like Detective Conan fake out. There you go. And love the mention of Detective Conan, my second favorite manga. Well, that might be another one for me to check.
I already know Jintone's a goated creator just for that.
Oh yeah, Jintone's great. He actually was like the creator that like I mean, obviously I was friends with you and stuff, but whenever I dropped my first video ever, he he watched it before it was public. Like that was like one of my first reviews. Like him, like I had like met him. Actually, O'Hara was Twitch streaming Pokemon, like a Nuzlocke, and I randomly was like talking to him in the chat, and then we just but then I think we were also in your Discord. I can't remember how it worked, but then eventually I found out he was started making videos, and yeah. Anyways, so he was like one of the first people to watch my video. But building off of the fake out by Shaka idea, because just tying to the million D chess that Shaka could be playing here.
Yeah.
My biggest issue with that, which like it's totally legit, like it's possible, but I guess maybe my personal gripe with that happening is like, is Oda really gonna have this whole chapter pretty much dedicated to these events just for them to like not be relevant? Like, and not, I mean, they're relevant, but it's like for them that like him not actually be dead, and like for him, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a whole chapter to it. So to me, it's like the weight of the actions are like so heavy, and like there's so much panel time dedicated to what happened in the basement in this chapter. It's like I feel like he's got to be dead. Like, not that it's 100%, but I'd be like, well, could we have done this in like real quick then? You know, like shown us half of Kid versus Shanks and then half of this chapter. But like he made the dramatic build up kind of substantial, I felt like. So
a significant clue, and I would imagine that if Shaka's not dead, it'll be revealed next chapter, just like how Pythagoras was, right? That one was an easier one to do because like on the detective stream we figured out that you know, in Pythagoras' introduction, he was shown to have a separated head. Shaka, on the other hand, we don't know what's underneath that mask. We don't know. I know a lot of people say like, oh, maybe it's not actually like, he's not a person, that's just oil, we can't tell in the manga, all that. And I like that. I definitely do. And I think what would be really cool if it were a fake out is that's actually a huge clue when you think about that. If Shaka lives, that means that the person who's doing this doesn't know the Vegapunks then, because if you knew the Vegapunks, then you know that that's not going to kill Shaka, right? So that's a clue in and of itself that if it turns out the Shaka's alive, then I would almost be like 90% sold that this is a third party, and it doesn't have to be someone unfamiliar. And the reason why I say that is because Bonnie, right? Bonnie is very familiar with the island, and yet she didn't recognize Atlas. She just like, what is this? Who is this? You're not Vegapunk, right? So that implies that these cloned personalities that have their own people, these are a later creation that even Stussy might not necessarily recognize. She's just like rolling with it, like, okay, these are you know what I mean? Like, this Vegapunk, I know Vegapunk, right? Like that kind of a thing. And so it could be that there could be like someone else who's familiar. I know a lot of people are throwing out Judge and Caesar. I don't necessarily, like, the timeline doesn't make sense to me at the moment. I know, like, I got a few comments saying like, you know, all that stuff could have happened way in the past with Judge and Caesar, and that's like fair, but like we know at minimum that the Katakuri, the taking the Vinsmokes back, right? The Vinsmokes sailed away, were like attacked, and then they were fighting back against them, sailed back to Whole Cake Island. And Big Mom was not there, so that implies that's at minimum after she left for Wano, which would be closer to the raid. And then all that stuff happening, it's like you kind of have to figure out how the timeline. Again, timeline is the most important thing. There's a world where it does fit, but like intuitively, personally, I don't know if it makes sense to say that Judge and Caesar would be the ones doing it. But it would be an interesting thing, like if they were just like the cover story just related, like, it's Vegapunk, haha, we got to do this. But then again, it's like that 2 month window of the CP0 agents being in their situation. It makes it feel like this was planned way in advance. Like 2 months is almost too little of like, whoever is doing this can't have just been like they like, you brought up Shiryu, right? Like Shiryu being on Hachinosu basically maybe 2 months ago would almost make it seem like it's not Shiryu, because this has to be pre-planned well beforehand. Like, again, how do you going back to the house analogy, right? You don't just break into someone's house and then like completely perfectly go underneath their nose. And this is not our pleb houses, right? This is the most futuristic island.
Yeah, it's a smart house, the smartest house. You know what I mean?
The smartest house. Like, and there are cameras. Like, there are cameras.
And bro, in the Sea Beast, it's almost like the guy not only broke into your house, but like all of your pets listen to him. You know, like like what? How? And building off of that, something from the chapter. And by the way, I just want to say real quick, everyone, I see all the super chats. I'm definitely going to get to those ASAP, but just, once we get through this part of the conversation, I'll get to those. But building off of that, in the chapter, I can't remember exactly what it was. I'm going to pull it up and see if I can find it. But basically, I think the number's 163 somewhere, right? Like on Luffy's shirt or something, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you go to chapter 163, isn't it Django? He's on the cover story, right? Isn't that?
That's an inch. Okay. You hit a trap card. I was saving this. I was planting the seeds. I actually said this. So me and Sai do a call every week, and it's gonna get posted tomorrow. And at the very end of it, I put out this thing where I didn't even recognize the thing, but Sai pointed out a detail, and then I saw the 163. And if you go to 163, okay. So this idea started. Oh, sorry.
You're good.
This idea started out as a crackpot, like short, not a crackpot short. It was like a short about clones, and then it got elevated by chapter 163. So hold on, let me just pull it up just to directly quote what happens in this thing. 163, pulling up on my other thing. Oops, there we go. So Yuba, the town of rebels. Yeah, you see Django. You see, I forget who this guy is. Oh, that's the full fist guy or whatever. Full chin.
Oh yeah,
Iron Fist.
What is
from
his...
Garatier?
I know. I can't remember his name. Or full body, or that's someone. Or
full body.
It's full body. Full body, right?
Yeah. Full body. Okay. All right. But like, look at how the chapter starts. Sandstorm.
Oh,
you was being hit by a sandstorm,
and then the very next panel is like the clear sky with the moon. You know what I mean?
So so I thought it was crazy. When I was thinking, I was like, "There's no way Crocodile's here." I was thinking sandstorm might mean Crocodile is coming. And the thing is, like, again, why would it be Crocodile?
Because keep going.
And so I made a short a while ago saying it. I think the logic makes sense. It pretty much stemmed from, when we found out clones were a thing, obviously a lot of people jumped to a bunch of clone theories, but my initial idea with this was like, okay, Crocodile looks, I just was on a review with a Piecemeal podcast. I don't know if you interact with them yet, but they go through the manga. And they're new readers, and they're posting a volume 86. I'm on that episode on Monday, and so that's when the emperors of the underworld get introduced. So you see Dufeld.
Dope.
And so a few of the readers are like, "Yo, Dufeld looks a lot like Crocodile. He almost looks like he could be Crocodile's dad." And I was like, "Oh my god, how did he say this?"
On your stream, you said Dufeldian, right? I think, like you said, they're from the same place or whatever, or family or lineage, whatever it is.
And so I forget if I talked a lot about this on the full stream, on my live stream, but essentially the idea was that, like, Crocodile. Okay, so Dufeld funded Mads. He's this rich dude who funded a science project. But like, we don't even have. I keep on saying out of story, real world examples, right? When Bill Gates or Elon Musk, they fund something, it's not for the benefit of the world. That's for an ulterior motive that makes sense to them. They're getting something out of it.
Yeah, it's not perfect altruism, right?
Even in the story, right? Big Mom invested in Caesar. Why? Because she wanted gigantification, right? Like, she invested to get something out of it. What did Dufeld? What was Mads working towards? Dufeld is their primary investor. We know that because their lab was on his ship with his name presented by Dufeld. So what did Dufeld get out of it? And what we find out that Mads was primarily working towards cloning. They were primarily working towards lineage factors. So wouldn't it make sense that Dufeld wanted clones? That's why he funded them. And then you look at Crocodile and it's like, oh, that's really interesting. And a lot of people out of that short, whereas basically tying the two people together, if from a visual standpoint, if you think that Weevil is a failed clone because of the stitches, well, Crocodile has the stitch thing, and we don't know why that's from. And then the other part of it, the reason why I like the idea is that Dufeld is a loan shark. That's what his thing. He's the king of fortune, loan shark Dufeld. That's what Crocodile is. Crocodile is loaning money to Buggy and literally is a loan shark to him. He's like shaking him down like he's a loan shark.
He literally seized his assets because he couldn't pay his bills. You know what I mean?
And we have no other, like, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck, right? But then on top of that, something that you know, I'll spoil it because, like you said, like this is the squad right here. We got 110 odd some people
yes,
here.
Sir.
We're gonna share the juice, right? Dax stream is our favorite place. So I think Sai added that if my perspective was that Stussy is the first successful clone and there weren't clones after that, and Weevil's a failed clone, I was basically saying there has to be failed clones up to Stussy. You can't go from Weevil to Stussy. Like, that's the most incredible. Like, if you invested in a scientist that went from a Weevil prototype to a Stussy, bro, give them your soul. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very few scientific inventions go like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's definitely like stepwise, you know.
And so what Sai was saying was basically, hey, what if Crocodile was a failed clone? And it connects to the Croco female theory that Crocodile came out as a girl, which is why it was a failed clone. And that could be why Dufeld stopped funding them, and that might be why Vegapunk ended up needing to go to the Gorosei. And then that's where Ivankov's thing comes into play, right?
How old is Crocodile?
I honestly, it's so interesting because, like, we don't even know how old Stussy the clone is, but like the aging thing, we just talked about that. The aging thing is such an odd situation in that regard. But I almost like want to go like, oh man, it goes deep. It goes deep. But then, so then the reason why I'm bringing it up in this thing, right? On Luffy's shirt, in this chapter 163, chapter 163 opens up with Sandstorm. At the end of it, the chapter, we have this person that, like we were saying, he has to be familiar with Vegapunk to a certain extent, has to be pretty smart. Crocodile is so smart that he was able to coup an entire country while being befriended. You know what I mean? Like, he's incredibly smart. His entire organization, the top echelon, were all undercover agents, right? Wonder where that comes from. But then the Crocodile angle would also make sense, because if it were a clone, right? And this all basically follows the same line of logic as the S Flamingo kind of theory, where it's someone who's familiar with it, but may not be like super familiar. You know what I mean? Like, do the Seraphims know that Shaka has it wouldn't die from this? You know what I mean? Like, if that's the case, right? It would make sense, because like Stussy, yes, is familiar with Vegapunk and Egghead, but she might not know everything. So then it could be that, like, hey, if Crocodile were a clone and he were to show up here, that would be really interesting, because then it's like that, in terms of that conversation that we were having, like how if the person who's doing this is outside of Egghead and the like Gorosei or world government, that elevates Egghead, right? But if it were like a Crocodile or clone or a failed Shaka, a failed S Flamingo, that contains it within Egghead, right? And so, like, all of that, I would like it if it were that direction. I'm not saying that's like the best thing, because I haven't had the time to like sit down and actually look at it. But I feel like there was a few things in the conversation between Crocodile and Mihawk that I don't think that we ever got like full revolution with, in that. Again, I haven't like dissected the cross guild chapter when they talk about. I'm definitely going to before I make this video, or if I do make the video, or I have time to make the video. Is I feel like Crocodile and Mihawk said something like they had something else in common, and I'm forgetting if that related to something in the chapter or if that related to something else. Because when you think about it, right, you could tie a lot of to cross guilds like motives to something that would relate to Egghead, right? It's not like Vegapunk is unknown. If they were replaced by the Seraphims, they have motive. You know what I mean? The reason the Marines are going after them is because Vegapunk created the Seraphims. So it could full well be like all of their operations, Mihawk's livelihood, Boa's island, every one of the warlords do actually have motive to actually go after Vegapunk. And I wouldn't put it past Crocodile if he had that inside knowledge, because one of the craziest things that we have yet to solve about Crocodile is how does he even know about Pluton? Like, that's like, where did he even get that information?
Well,
right?
building off the Dufeld stuff, that could all connect, right? Like, it could be that all of his knowledge comes from that. Like, maybe him and Dufeld have been in cahoots. Like I do agree that there's like similarities in like their appearance and all that, but it could also just be that like they're just in like they work together, you know what I mean? Like maybe Crocodile learned how to be a loan shark from Dufeld or whatever, and so building on all this punk record or Egghead Island stuff, that's how Croc would know anything, right? It could be that Dufeld told him, like, and even told him, like, okay, if you want to get around his defenses, you're gonna have to know X, Y, and Z, and like all these other little tricks. So I mean, it makes a lot of sense. The only thing is that Croc is 46 years old, and so that puts him quite a far. And I know you said you haven't a lot of time to look at the timeline, but I don't think it completely rules it out, because Weevil is 35, which kind of surprised me, and so that would make him older. But then that would also make me think, okay, like you would think that Croc is a better clone than Weevil, just because Weevil like looks kind of like deformed, sort of, or at least compared to like Whitebeard. But at the same time, he has the strength, right? So it could be he could be more of a success than Croc in that regard, right? And like you said, he could have came out like a woman originally, you know what I mean? And so like you compare like Weevil, who has this superhuman strength, you know what I mean? And obviously like Kawina and a lot of other things, it's like, you know, like women physically aren't as strong, and so that could have been the thing where it's like, well, we need him to be a male, you know what I mean? Like we need to get this clone, like, because Dufeld paid us to do this for him, and this ain't gonna do, you know what I mean? Like, because he's a male and it's not a male and whatever else. So
yeah, and I mean, if you think about it like this, like it could even make sense that Crocodile would be the first clone, because if Dufeld is funding it, then why wouldn't he be like, make me a clone, go ASAP? The same way Big Mom was just like, where's the results, Caesar? Give it to me now. If I have to keep you on the island and make my own factory, I will, right? Like,
right.
It could, like, that's literally actually what Dufeld did. He built them a ship that ended up being like an entire
that's crazy
factory, right? So it's like, you know, and then there's so many ways. Again, like the fact that could like sort of even make sense is so cool to me. But I think like the only reason why, even like Sai was saying this, Sai, when I told him that, he said at the end of it, he's like, I asked him, I was like, do you think that's a possibility? He's like, nah. But then like it sat with him for like 6 hours maybe, and then he was telling his stream, he's like, you know what? It's incepting me. Like I actually like this like turn of events. If it were true, I'd like it. And I'm like, yeah, that's where we're at right now, where essentially anything is possible on Egghead, and all it comes down to is how Oda ends up writing it. And right now, whoever is the traitor has to be a mega mind genius. They have to be. I'd hate it if it were some like stupid turn of events.
And going with, like we mentioned Stussy earlier, or Stussy, whatever. You know, whenever we first met her, she shot Dufeld, right? And so we want to talk about 5D chess. What if that is a 5D chess move? You know what I mean? Like we aren't thinking any of this is possible. What if they've been in cahoots this whole time? Because she only exists because Dufeld's money. You know what I mean? Like the only reason she is still alive today is because he funded it all. And like, I'm not saying he purposely wanted to get shot, but it could just be like, maybe even just from Oda's perspective, like we're not thinking Dufeld because of that, you know what I mean? Or even Stussy, or that they have been working together. Like, you know, talk about the timeline. If I'm correct, which I'm like pretty sure, I haven't 100% checked, but I think this 2-month thing should have started before Whole Cake. Because we spent like a couple weeks in Wano, because it was like a week after the raid, but we were there for like 2 weeks before that, I think, because we were training and stuff. So we spent about a month in Wano, and then Whole Cake was just like a couple days, right? And then there was like days of travel in between. So if you go 2 months back, that's before Whole Cake. So then that would be Stussy and Dufeld could have like set up their operation 2 months ago, met at Whole Cake. You know what I'm saying? Like it could have started well before that. Then they met there. And then the operation still continues. But like the fact that they're there, like I don't think ruins, because like I don't think they have to be at Egghead the whole time. You know what I'm saying? I guess is what I'm getting at. Like we might be thrown off just in general, but I think it lines up.
that's another big question. So real quick, just addressing the timeline thing, something that I also don't think, like the cross guild thing, now I'm thinking about it, we weren't given a timeline of when that happened, but reasonably that happened before Onigashima, right? Because the news is already out there, the cross guild, the bounty stuff. And the reason why the bounty thing is interesting is if Seraphims were sent to Boa, for example, it would be interesting to me if the bounties were made to like Kobe's bounty is super high. Why? Because he has an authority chip, right? Like it could be like crazy stuff like that could like play in here.
So like Dufeld might know the order of the chips, and like he's been like, and he's working with Crocodile, like we're talking about this Crocodile stuff, because that would just connect. He's the best connection between Mad's team and Croc, right? And so talk about that. You're right. The bounties could be based on that. That's the whole reason they're getting Marines, maybe. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
there's like multiple angles as to how it could make sense. But I think the most important thing is like we actually like we were given the timeline right after Wano, but like no, this could have happened well beforehand. In fact, it makes more sense that it happened well beforehand because they were dealing with this stuff well in advance to you know, the Luffy news, right? Because Luffy finished up and then he got the news. So we don't like that could play into this, and and we actually don't even know what Crocodile has been up to in the entire time he's been in the New World, but he's been cooking up something, right? Like it wouldn't make sense for him to just be idle, right?
Yep.
Like it would make more sense for him to actually be setting something up.
Yep.
But the main question, you know, to set up like you know some thoughts is like, if it's a third party, you have to ask yourself, how do they even get access to the island? How do they get onto the island? How do they go? Like the Shiryu angle makes almost no sense to me once you include that there are prisoners in the basement, right? Like what, Shiryu's just walking up multiple people
yes,
like through like there's only the legendary, not the legend, the Vega Force one and the tube to Labo phase. And so you're telling me Shiryu invisified all of them, took them up to Cypher Pole, to the basement, through all the cameras, all invisible, and none of the Vegapunks like knew. They're like, I wonder why this empty pod is here. And then it just opens, and then it's like, you know what I mean?
Right,
like
exactly.
So that's a huge question. If it is a third party, that almost wants me to not think it's a third party. But I wouldn't put it past Oda to like think of a way to make the third party thing make sense.
So right? here's my like one of my best explanations for a third party is Lafitte, right? So I mentioned earlier the Django stuff, right? The 163 chapter thing, and Django's on the cover. Well, Django hypnotizes people, right? And people have said Lafitte is going to have the siren fruit or whatever because he has like the wings. So we don't know exactly what his fruit is, but I feel like that's a pretty common theory. And so sirens can hypnotize people basically, right? So if that is true, I know there's a lot of assumptions there, but if that was true, then he could have, and Lafitte's always like not with the Blackbeard pirates. You know what I mean? He's always gone. Like whenever we first met the Blackbeard pirates, they literally said, "Oh, we're here to meet Lafitte," right? And then like we saw him go to Marijois or whatever to talk to the Gorosei, or like to get Blackbeard in the Marine. So that also makes me think, well, if this guy could fly into Marijois, I mean, Punk, you know, I mean, Egghead's like obviously high tech, but like I almost would put them on a similar level of like defense, just because, you know what I mean? Just I'm sure there's like high alert, you know what I mean, like everywhere.
Nah,
so it's
don't build up Marine like that. Marine Frog's doo-doo, bro.
No,
like,
no, Marijois.
Oh, Marijois doo-doo too. Like what? Man, Fisher Tiger, tell me they have defense. Come on.
But still, it's at least opens the door for like, all right, this guy's good at espionage, right?
Fair,
and so going to the hypnotism thing with Django, like, what if the sea beasts were hypnotized by Lafitte, and that's how it happened? And then it's like, well, how didn't they notice? What if Lafitte's actually been hypnotizing all the Vegapunks this whole time, and then he erases like the memory of seeing him, so whenever they go and update Punk records, it's not in there. You know, and he's in. I know a lot of people have mentioned this. What if he's Hattori, the bird, and so he's like been sneaking into, like, he can probably fly to Egghead whenever he wants, like whenever he leaves Lucci. But then he can also keep tabs on what CP0's doing, and that might be how the plan started, because Lafitte has been with Lucci this whole time, and he knew like Vegapunk was going to get taken out once the Seraphims were done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I'm just like, I'm stuck like thinking of, so someone in my Discord, and I don't know, maybe because we share a lot of members, I haven't properly responded to, well, maybe I did. The last few days have been so hazy, truthfully. But they were asking me a question about why. So we know that the Labo phase has like the laser security system, right? And the number apparently indicates its strength level, like it's a power level. So like when we're introduced to it's like 100 or 67, then it like fluctuates to like 68, then when it's like on high security it's on 100, and then when it goes down it goes to 0, and then it comes back to 100. And I thought that was so interesting, because then it's like the Hattori thing, like I'm almost imagining, because what's the difference between 166? Like, why is that even a thing? Why isn't it just on and off? Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And like if it's at 66, like maybe Hattori, if it was Hattori, he's just like observation hockey, like dodging through the laser. That would be such a cool thing to see.
Or the lasers like talking about the defense system, like maybe the number tells like 100's every threat and 60 something is like only certain, you know, level of threats, and maybe it just sees a pigeon and it's like that's not even worth.
Oh, true. Yeah,
you know?
It's not like Vegapunk hates birds, right? Like I'm thinking about like airplane. You know how like airplanes fly and then birds just like splat on it, you know, like super sad. I imagine Vegapunk wouldn't just be frying every bird that flies past, like and then essentially like birds see this giant egg and they're like, oh, that's an egg, I gotta go take care of it. They fly down, soup, laser beam. Like I'm sure Vegapunk maybe has like a pro bird agenda, right? That'd be crazy if there was. Oh man, that'd be so sick if someone went through the panels and saw birds within the stratosphere of Labo phase, because then you could kind of prove that, like, hey, the security system's up, but look at these birds they're flying through.
I mean,
that would be sick.
There are whale holograms flying. I mean, I know those are like obviously a different thing, but I mean, I can definitely see it. Like if there are whales, and you know what I mean, like, and those are holograms, but like those are real or loosely, right? Whatever it is. So hey, I'm with you, man. I mean, the Hattori thing would be too hype. Like that it would be, everyone would freak out and love it. So like, I don't want to even think it's gonna happen because I get kind of hype. But it's also what I want. And the gun, like people talk about the Blackbeard stuff. It's a gun. All the Blackbeard pirates shot Whitebeard. They all have guns, right? Whatever. So
yeah, and like I like that this is becoming like an agenda that Lafitte could be Hattori. I have like an entire video scripted out for it, because in my Discord like maybe 3 weeks ago, a few of my mods brought it to me, and I was just like, they hit me with a few details, and then I told 3-Day like most of it, I think 90% of it, and then I had it, I just haven't had time to make it because, you know, the recent videos have been more important than that. But yo, if Hattori, on day one, Hattori, stronger is rocks, Hattori is a person. You already know, like, I love that 100%.
Oh, I got a stronger is rock shout out in the Chopper video that's coming out this weekend. I got thoughts that definitely counter your stronger thoughts. You know what I mean? But that's what I say is like, I love this theory, but if we're gonna be more realistic, maybe it's this. You know, is basically what I'm saying. So I definitely want it to be some. It is gonna be a human. I'm 100% on that. It's gonna be a human. And that's exactly what I was gonna say. And here's a little bit of a tease of the Chopper video, I guess, just real quick. Is Chopper is an animal that wanted to be a human. Stronger is a horse that has the mythical Pegasus fruit. So what if he's a human that didn't like being human and wanted to be an animal, right? So it's like the reverse. I love that fruit. Yeah, and so whenever Doc Q and Stronger, if they both fight together, which I think they will, they fight Chopper. It's gonna be, obviously the one has diseases, which is counter to Chopper's thing, but then the other one is Chopper's other angle, where he is an animal that like loves humanity and life and intelligence and wants everyone to have that same feeling, and you know what I mean, all that kind of stuff, whatever. And so then it's like maybe Doc Q and Stronger are gonna work together to try to turn everyone to animals. You know what I mean? Like they don't want everyone to be human.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I still love, and this is why I love that theory, is the connection of Lasso and Stronger. The fact that Oda drew them the same way with the sickly thing, and we have no explanation for why. I am almost like that. That almost alone sells me on even the crazier part of that theory, which is where me and we talked about it on my stream about how it could be a rock ate the devil fruit, and that rock is like a statue of somebody, whether it's actually Rock's Dizabek or a person. I think like it makes a lot of sense if Stronger was a person. And it doesn't have to be rocks. I think that's like just like an anime trope that Oda loves to meme anime tropes. Like that's 100% a fact. Like at this point, it's like he'll do something. It's like, oh, that happened in Naruto, that happened in Dragon Ball Z, but then you like realize what Oda did in One Piece, and it's like, oh, he's memeing so hard right now. Like Majin Buu, apparently, like Sai was saying that Majin Buu has the same voice actor as Weevil, and memeing.
Even if Oda doesn't make that decision, it's still a meme.
And then Babidi looks pretty much like Bakens. Like Babidi from Dragon Ball Z looks like Bakens.
That's so true. That's so true.
It's the same kind of authority kind of like situation, right? Like this babyish character with this old wrinkly person, and then like it's just kind of crazy how that like lined up. And Oda does that. Raizo in Naruto, like, you know what I mean?
Right. Oh, dude, that's still one of my favorite moments. Like, because even like everyone was pumped about the ninjas, like even Law. So, all right, real quick, I want to get to some of these super chats because I'm like 30 minutes behind now. So I apologize, everyone.
Wait, before I forget, real quick, just a small detail.
Go for it.
When you said the Lafitte thing and the Sea Beast thing, Sea Beast, right?
Yeah.
Crossguild has a beast tamer who touts to be able to command any beast,
bro.
No matter what.
Wait, what is it? Is it Richie or is Richie the animal?
Richie's the animal.
Okay,
but I think it's like Momoji or something.
Yeah, I think you're right, Momoji. Yeah,
the beast tamer. Imagine he beast tamed the sea beast. That'd be so cracked.
Stop, bro. Stop, bro. Actually, dude, I might have some other crazy theories about that guy now, because based off some other conversations we had, like. Oh man, that's actually so crazy you brought that up. I have so many thoughts now because, like, I mean, even like on a bigger level, like Tama and the ancient weapons, like it's all about taming beasts, and here we are with a guy from the start who's now like a Yonko commander, sort of, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, so. Yeah.
Dang, he is a Yonko.
I mean, I think Mihawk and Croc are probably the presumed ones, but like, if we want to get like really, you know, in the thick of it, it might be Kabaji and Moji. It's Moji. Yeah, Kabaji and Moji. Like Mohji, I think, right?
The acrobatic swordsman that actually damaged Zoro and can breathe fire, by the way, guys. That's don't crazy. Sleep on this Yonko commander.
Yeah, the original king.
No, not the original king. No. That's gross.
Real quick, big shout out to Keyboard Cat for the $2 super chat that just said have to support the homies. Yo, I always appreciate that. Thank you, Cat. Friend Harper super chatted $5 and said, do you think the design of Chopper's fruit is due to the theory that pre-humans turned into humans after finding shrooms? I've never thought about that at all, but I will say that I talk about Chopper's fruit in the video that I'm dropping, and the design is very important, and I don't want to spoil it in the stream because it's, I think, a huge part of the theory. But any thoughts on that, Par?
I am not aware of this theory. I'm interested to know more about the pre-humans turned into humans from shrooms. That's very cool. I think mushrooms are just like by far one of the coolest existences in all of like humanity, based off of what they do and evolve to do. It's so cool. Like, dude, I talked about it on a podcast with Sai, like a 50-50 thing, where like some mushrooms I think can like create zombie ants and zombie caterpillars. Like that's just so random and cool. Like,
bro, if that kind of stuff, bro, like I know it's gonna sound so dumb and nerdy, but just for like a minute, bro, like the decomposers in the environment are so amazing, dude. Like, no, like the way I think of it is, bro, nobody else is gonna eat that but these things eat it and give us good stuff in return. They're literally like filters for the world. You know what I mean? Like, it's insane, bro. Like fungus is obviously like bad for us in a lot of ways. Like fungus is like one of the main like we're kind of talking about, but I mean, it comes in a lot of different forms. But like, I mean, I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of people don't understand like with our world absolutely needs that. Like, it's literally like our trash can for the world. You know what I mean? Like, it's amazing, bro. Like, I don't do it now. I need to buy a better bin for it to do it here. But I used to compost in my backyard, and like, it sounds so dumb, but like, bro, I would love seeing all the mushrooms. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
yeah,
it's great.
I didn't do it into like that. Once I get my own setup, like my wife is on board, but 100%. But what I actually did was there's a few mushroom strains that they've discovered that can eat plastic, that they actually break down the plastic. I forget what the enzyme was, what the strain is, but I actually have the thing here. I could grow it right now if I wanted. And I actually tested it out, and it was like really cool and interesting. I never got to scale it up because I wanted to just like take all my plastic stuff, throw it in a bin in the back, and then just the mushrooms just take it over. And bro, the fact that they can do that, and it can go from basically something that can't fertilize anything to something that actually can be used to fertilize. Like, I wouldn't necessarily eat like the plants that can grow from whatever comes out of that, but the fact that it goes from like an inorganic to an organic in like one step just through a mushroom is one of the most incredible things. Yep.
It's probably like the biggest wonder of the world that people don't think about. You know what I mean? Like I mean, all of life is crazy, but to me, mushrooms, like, dude, they're like, I mean, okay, this is the last thing that we're going to get off the mushroom talk, but like, I got one follow-up after. Okay, nobody understands like the network of like fibers, like of like mushroom systems in the ground. Like, whenever you go and dig up a hole, like, you have no idea how many different like networks of mushrooms you're digging. Like, not actual mushrooms, but like the fibers, like whatever it's called, like the mycelium, whatever it is. Like, they all connect underneath the ground. Anyway, what's the last thing you were gonna say?
Yo, there's some mushrooms that they're a little furry, and they got an afro going on. All I'm saying is maybe that could be the fact that Django had a mushroom going on as a day one character, and he's still relevant.
That's
and then
true.
Chopper's thing is, going back to the super chats, like, why is that the human fruit? Is that where Dax's theory connects? The One Piece is a mushroom with an afro. Like, that'd be the most. Oh my god.
Well, I'll say this: the way it connects is they said that the perfect cure was a mushroom, and that's why Chopper was looking for a mushroom the whole time.
True.
And maybe the reason he couldn't find that was because he already ate it. And you'll have to watch the video. Yeah. You have to watch the video for for the rest of the info.
Sponsored post, by the way. Sponsored by Dax. Okay.
Another shout out to Baby Pluton, super chatting $10. Love Baby Mole. He said, Baby Mole here. Oh, it just moved. Hold on. He said, Baby Mole here. Thoughts on who an endgame traitor could be? We've had traitors in Wano, like Conjuro and Denjiro, and now Stussy and the mystery person. So it makes me think there will be one in the final war. And maybe I'm reading too much into it, but maybe one thought is maybe like a squad situation too. Like, it could be more of this kind of traitor situation, but maybe even just a quick traitor thing like that, where it's like in the moment type deal. I am 100% like, I could see a Straw Hat doing, or like a fleet member doing the squad thing maybe, but like a full-on traitor, I don't know. Like, I definitely think there will be one that hurts the crew, like, are the good guys a lot. But I don't think it'll be anyone like a crew member that'll do something that major. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of good options. Like, I mean, what if it's like Barto, because he like loves Luffy so much and he gets confused.
Would be interesting because like essentially for it to be a Straw Hat and to mimic this squad situation, it'd be like squad loved Whitebeard. Whitebeard raised Ace. And Ace was related to Roger, who then I think was killed Squad's entire crew. That's like the story, right?
Right.
So in the Straw Hats, in order for that to make sense, well, all of them know Dragon, all of them know Garp. There's not really a way where that like low key makes sense, like unless Shanks is involved. But they like most of the core ones know Shanks, and I don't think the rest of them are like characters like Jinbei, right? Like, Jinbei is not going to be perturbed by like anything, even if Shanks is a bad a bad egg in that regard, right?
Mhm.
But Barto could make sense, but we're getting the Barto Shanks moment here, unless like Dragon like wiped out Barto's island. But like, but then again, like all of Luffy's laundry is aired through the Summit War,
Right.
So it doesn't like, unless Luffy's mom is like this crazy monster, then it wouldn't like. Luffy's mom is also like Barto's mom, and she beat Barto like growing up. Like I don't know.
Oh,
like yeah, it's
that. Oh man, like and this is a whole other thing. But I know, just speaking of Luffy's mom, I know a lot of people have also brought up the like Emu, Umi stuff, because also, Zoro's mom and Sanji's moms are like the sky and the earth or whatever, so it would make a lot of sense. We'll probably touch on that in just a second, so I'm not going to talk about it too much yet, because I know you got some W's from the Terra stuff, but what were you going to say?
No, in terms of the traitor thing, actually, what I will say, and I don't even know if I'll bring it up when we do talk about it, but my last video gave me a whole new perspective on that traitor thing. Like, if there were a traitor, I'm like 99% sure it'd be this character, but like it almost doesn't make sense to a certain extent to repeat the situation. So I don't really know.
Is it Usopp?
How like Usopp already went through the character arc of what
I agree.
You watched the video of it, right? But like, so then if the parallel was Emu there, it could make sense for it to happen again, but I just don't know where or how. Like, it doesn't make sense right now. But like Usopp would be that character, but again, to do it again is a problem. That's like where
I'm with you. I'm with you, and it's also like he's pretty much set out, right? Like I would spill the beans if I got caught. It's like, man, like Oda's like too good to like make it that obvious, and like he's gonna like make it hit way harder. Like, not that it wouldn't hit, but it's just like you're saying, it's just he's already gone through it, so like we need something else.
It might even be that, like, again, I'm talking in code, but we'll talk about the video later on. And if those of you guys who watch the video, it might be interesting. Like, wait, what are they talking about? But essentially, whatever happened in the Void Century, it feels like at this point, like, betrayal is definitely in the cards. And it might be that because Usopp went through that already, through the Mary, that's why the story turns in a different direction, because the first character never had that, right? So in the Void Century, the parallel would be that Usopp situation, and then the rest of it would be essentially what we see, history repeating itself until the actual problem resolved. So but yeah, continue on.
I was gonna say that thought that his growth from going through it once is what stops him from doing it again. That's like a video idea in and of itself. Like, that is so amazing. And you could even go off the tendrils of the ideas that Oda, maybe like the pre-time skip was originally planned to be the whole story for Oda, but then once he got the contract renewed, he's like, all right, we're gonna like have a time skip and you go all do all this other stuff. So you could even go off that and say, like, like that's towards like Water 7 could have been the start of like the end if that was Oda's original plan, and then that could have been it. Like, he could have betrayed him, but now he's not going to, because that happened. So that's amazing. Thank you to Good Vibes for super chatting $5. I appreciate you, bro. Yo, Dak and Par, been busy and haven't been able to make lives, but I stay supporting the videos, which the drops lately have been straight heat. Fro gang, bro, I appreciate you. Good Vibes has been supporting me since like day one. He's like one of my first members, so I really appreciate you, bro. I always see you in the comments too. Yeah. Oh, Good Vibes is awesome. Good Vibrations.
There we go. I was like, wait, Good Vibes. Good
Vibrations, but Good Vibes for short. Good, a lot of syllables. That's why I say Dak. My real name is too many syllables, so we just go with Dak.
Fair enough.
And also shout out to Tosmore and CP for subscribing. I've seen your name like a million times, so I appreciate you for subscribing, bro.
Tosman's goated.
Oh yeah.
Love Dak.
Let's see. Flan D Man super chatted $5. Both you dudes are awesome, and hear me out. The Gorosei are clearly going to be formidable foes, so they can't rely only on the celestial dragons. They get it. They have legacy. I am 1,000% with you, Flan. I think the Gorosei are going to be like, I don't know if it's going to be hockey. I don't think it's going to be devil fruits. It could be. It could be devil fruit powers that are born from will. You know all about that part. Whatever it is, I do think they're not gonna be. Wait? I think it was you and Sai. Geriatric was that the word?
yeah. No, that's because Sai. Like when we first met, Sai. One of the first conversations was essentially like he thought that if they got up, their hips would break. Like I'm like, yo, come on.
Man. Oh, they're not at the retirement home, man. Oh, if they are, they've been there for a long time because they haven't aged. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah, I think the Gorosei, I don't think devil fruits. I think there's going to be something else. I have a video coming out in the future about that.
Okay.
But one of my shorts actually alludes to this idea. I've talked about it a few times. So it's like, I like me saying the words God fruits sounds so lame and so like, oh, devil fruits, God fruits. But like when you really break down what I'm saying, and it's too lengthy to talk about right now, I think it makes a lot of sense. But like just a short thing, it's like, if the mother of nature can curse or punish somebody, why can't Mother Nature bless? Right? Like it almost, the fact that we have that wording in the story where it's like curses is one thing, right? Curses, like, curses, and it's just interesting. It's like a punishment feels
natural, like expected, right? Like
yeah,
like a downside, yeah.
So like if devil fruits are loathed, right? We're adding the word loathe, then why isn't there love? Why isn't there blessing and love? So does Mother Nature love and bless people? And if so, then what do those powers look like? Is that what the God Knights have? Is that what the Gorosei have, right? I like the idea that they either don't have devil fruits, or they're hockey. I know like Threevil is sold essentially on the elemental hockey train of thought, which is what that video is essentially saying. I said like the Gorosei would probably have those powers when they made that.
Super valid. Back. Yeah.
Then this new idea that God fruits could make sense. And then I have another one where it's like maybe they don't even need powers, but the thing is that's kind of a moral of the story. And just to briefly say the synthesis of this video, it's like look at all of these people that they toppled without any power. We're talking about Kaido and Roger and Whitebeard, but Roger died to a disease. Like Whitebeard died in a war. Kaido died to some goofy rubber kid, right? Like what if you were to say that the Gorosei instigated every single thing? Like, and then you would, like with Nolan, right? Like I have that theory that they might have done that with Nolan. And if that were the case, then look at how much more effective it is than being powerful, right? Like you don't need a devil fruit. If you have the knowledge of like how the world works, you place a Moria in a certain place, you place a Kaido in a certain place, and then all these people, and then you give Roger cancer. It's like he can't beat cancer apparently, right? Like so like there's so many things that you could say, and if that were the route, I think that'd be crazy. Like if you said that like, oh, they're the reason why Flevens, Law's place, white lead. Well, we actually know that, right? Tree fever, is that another thing? That they could be the reason why Nami died, almost got disease, and Kureha saved her. But what if Kureha wasn't there? We would have lost Nami, right? What if those little interactions that got countered were the Gorosei interacting? They were the ones who tried to poison Nami so that Luffy couldn't sail anymore. Further, right? Like
I love that, and I also think there's another side of that coin where like how many times did the ancient kingdom have some kind of thing set in place to play like 6D chess, you know what I mean, to like it's probably like back and forth where they both have been getting in each other's ways for 800 years because they both, whether it's a Punk Records idea or whatever it is, they both kind of knew how the next 800 years would go, and they both like mapped things out to like play chess, but they knew at a certain time, shit's going down, basically, right? That's like, what I see.
It would make no sense to me, right, that Odin gets to go to Laugh-Tale, and this ancient kingdom or whatever remnant of it apparently tells him 20 years later there's going to be like this crazy event with the seas, but then the civilization that survived had no contingencies on that future, no plans to counter every part, to deal with the equilibrium that's apparently being thrown out of whack. Like that almost makes more sense. Like think about our world, right? Like when we had like the 2012 scare, the Mayan calendar, it's like we at least like had foresight of it. We weren't like smart enough to like, oh, like how is the world going to be destroyed? But I would imagine like in the One Piece world it'd be a little bit more different than that, right?
Yes.
That's why they hide the history. That's why they stop people from getting to certain places.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and that's actually going to be the focus of my Nolan video, which I have mentioned probably like 100 times on the channel, and like I've had the thumbnail since like November, and, I've had it scripted, and then like a new little thing comes, I'm like, you know what, maybe I should wait, and so, but I agree with you 100%.
Right.
I think there are a lot of little things you could look at in the story, and like we're saying, like you could tell what the chess match has been, like, oh, like this like you talk about Shandora, and I think it's the reverse. I agree with like Nolan was trying to be set up, but I think the action for it being sent up was by the Ancient Kingdom, basically. Like they did it because of like, oh, like government guys here, get the island out of here. Basically, you know, that's basically the mindset.
I like that because I was playing with that idea two ways, one way or the other. Someone actually commented something that made me think more of the world government, but in that video I talked about the coincidence of the cloud being there, right? The fact that the Emperor Cloud came is also like how we know that thing moves around. So if for it to come perfectly when Shandora would be knocked up, I was thinking that the cloud was the Ancient Kingdom, which is what my theory about like Pluton / Uranus, like that's how I saw it. But you could easily flip it. You could flip it the other way around too, where it's like maybe the world government was the cloud and the Ancient Kingdom was the other way, right? Like there's so many ways you could think about that for sure.
Yep, and you could even tie it to like the Iron Giant, because it's like Nolan was 400 years ago, the Iron Giant was 200 years ago. Like what's with these like perfect increments? You know what I mean? Like Oda's definitely not being lazy. Like it's on purpose, right?
He's memeing on us right now on timeline. Can he like,
bro?
That's so rude. Like this chapter was him memeing on us, and like he's still doing it.
Dude, it's so funny that like in your reaction, it was like listening to my reaction, because it was like the chapter started, it's like, oh, Oda's making fun of us, and then you got later, and I can't remember. There's a couple things where it's just whenever we can talk about this for a little bit, but the Ohara refresher that was in the chapter, but it's like, whoa, what are we doing, bro? We just had the chapter, bro. Like, and I get it. Oh, the Ohara flashback is goated. There's no doubt. There's not even a debate for it. Everyone knows it. But we just had a whole chapter, and I know that like maybe they didn't explicitly say the same refresher points that they did in this refresher, but in my opinion, it's like anyone who read that chapter and didn't remember the Ohara stuff would have went and read the Ohara flashback again to like fill themselves in. You know what I mean? Like we didn't need another refresher. It's almost like Wano again with like the 100th flashback, you know.
1000%. Like, and the thing is, I would have been fine with a refresher, but when we had the chapter title Will of Ohara, right, like that would have made way more sense. But what's even more rude about it, which like didn't really sink in during my live reaction, was and Sai pointed out this to me, is like it's like a family postcard of like the most memed situation. Like Clover's throwing up a peace sign, Aokiji's killing them, like young Aokiji's chilling with them, and then like Olvia and is like there, cool, but like Saul is laughing and crying, laughing, and I'm like, what? How is this a refresher on Ohara?
It's
like,
not a refresher. This is the exact opposite of what happened in Ohara. You know what I mean? Like everyone, literally only two of those people now are alive. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
like
man.
is this Oda like is this Oda telling us that Clover is alive and he's just like, yep, I'm good too, guys? Oh, like that would be kind of crazy.
That would be crazy.
And then Clover is the traitor. Clover's the one on here. If we're talking about smart people, he's like, Vegapunk, why didn't you save me? How dare you work with the world government after they murdered my family? Like that kind of shit.
Dude,
wait a moment.
2 seconds, because maybe this is where you're going with it. I've had this loose thought, and we haven't mentioned it on stream, but I might as well mention it, where what if the will of Ohara is what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that sounds super crazy. We had that chapter, Will of Ohara, and then we also had everyone like telling Shaka's like, I know all the stuff. You know, like I learned everything. I know all the stuff, and you're talking about Clover. Like, what if it's like I say the Will of Ohara loosely, like it's Clover's will, or like something Ohara connected that is causing this, like the information itself, like the tree has willed itself into a form, you know, like something very tinfoily. But I don't know, like it's weird that it was like the Will of Ohara in this chapter, or like that was the chapter title.
No, like I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, wait a second, that's like an incredible motive, because if But the thing is, like, he talked to Saul, so I would imagine like they're fine, right? Because he was there. But like, what if there was someone outside of that that was competent enough, like Olvia? Let's just say Olvia for a second, right? Like Olvia, for some reason, has no idea. She's reading because Vegapunk's in every single newspaper, right?
Right.
She's reading every newspaper. Like, this man, he could have saved O'Hara, but he didn't. She just didn't get the knowledge that he did. Like he whatever, and and then she's just walking on like pa. And oh my god, she's also should be someone who's good at like espionage type of things, right?
Yeah, and she would know a lot of the history, and who knows what that would tell her that might help her, you know, like what if she learns secrets about how will works, or you know, some nonsense, and like let her work around that. And I think it's like that's the thing, is like her or anyone from O'Hara working around Vegapunk is like the big issue with it. But that's the thing, is like O'Hara was also about information, right? Like it was all about being smart and knowing all the stuff that you wanted to know. And obviously it wasn't engineering, like O'Hara was like past, but it's still, maybe this is a lesson where like, you know, the history or is like more important than technology in a way, right? Like the will can create what the technology is trying to do, kind of nonsense. But yeah,
there's a lot of ways. Ooh, that's exciting. That'd be interesting. That would be kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. That's kind of now one of my favorite kind of ideas now. Because you don't even need to put things together for that one, because there's nothing to really go back and look.
And like you said, like it could be that Vegapunk's working with the government now, and it's like, oh, you allied with our enemies, we have to, you know, like we have to take you out. And or it could even be a bigger brain play where it's like, even though you're working with the enemies, you don't realize the danger you're in, so we're gonna set things up so you don't die. You know what I mean? Like like these hostages could be like leverage. There's so many things. Like the motive is so hard, because I don't know whether they're helping or hurt. Like you could say hurting because they're shooting people, but they didn't kill the Stella, right? Like maybe they're trying to keep the Stella alive, and so they're helping in a way, right? So I'm not exactly sure you know, how it's all gonna end. But real quick, I
just got excited.
I want to get through a couple super chats, or was like, I guess a bunch of super chats now. Appreciate you guys. Real quick,
hold on.
What's up?
Yo, someone in the recent chat said, you guys are talking about my theory. I think it's recent enough that they're talking about the Clover, the O'Hara thing. That's interesting. He said read above. I'm excited. I'm gonna go see.
Who said this? I'm just trying to look through my...
Yo64,
Yo 264?
Yeah.
Oh, that's... Yeah, I know the name. That's how... There we go. I
don't
read my earlier messages. I don't see it on my end either. I only have so many chats.
I'll try to find it.
Okay, yeah. Anyways, and real quick, so Terrible TJ super chatted $2 and asks, is Emu the Klaboutermon of the crown or the throne? And I'm gonna put that in the parking lot for a second, because that's a good segue into an Emu discussion I want to have with Par's latest video. So we are definitely going to get back to that, TJ, in just a minute. Let's see. Narrator, thank you for becoming a member, bro. And I don't see a message attached with it, but I see you have some super chats up here too. So I'm just going to jump right up to those real quick. Oh, two $20 super chats. Thank you, bro. I really appreciate it. A certain time such as... Oh, it just moved. A certain time such as a mega eclipse of multiple moons that affect to tides very low at Long Ring Longland, but very high at Marijois. Water 7 is a ship between those locations now. Saba Odi is safe because of the bubbles. I think you did mic drop. I think that's what you mean. It is interesting, because also Water 7's turning into a ship, and also what else was beyond that? Thriller Bark, which was also a moving ship, right? Like an island that was on a ship. So that's just an interesting connection off rip that I've been thinking about. But the Saba Odi part being safe because of the bubbles.
Wait, on real also, wouldn't an eclipse... Oh, I guess it depends how the eclipse works, because if we're talking about... Because if in a solar eclipse, the moon and sun are together, that technically creates a super high tide, right? Because they're both on the same side, rather than a low tide.
Yeah, if they're... Right, if they're on the same side, the gravity would be
Yeah.
stronger, so it would be high tide.
So if it's a lunar eclipse, but in that instance you're not seeing the moon, then that's opposite sides because the moon's on the opposite end, and then you get a low tide, high tide situation.
Right, and I know Aqua Laguna is based off of a like real life thing that happens like in Italy, I believe. I remember doing research for it, and I almost like. I was like, you know what? Davy's blowhole is a safe enough answer. I'm just gonna go. Like, I don't know how to break this down, so I just went with that. But no, that is a good point. Like, I think the eclipse is a very legitimate theory idea, right? Because that also builds into the timeline factor, where we were saying like 400 years ago stuff was happening, 200 years ago the Iron Giant climbed the wall, and it's like, why is it 800 years? Why is it a certain point in the future that all this happens? And what if that's because it's the day that an eclipse happens, right? I know that's like kind of base, or it could be like all the planets aligning, right? Whatever it is.
I actually like that. Sorry.
I was gonna say, yeah. I was just gonna say, and all of them aligning should create like a crazy high tide, right? And that would only happen once every very long period of time, like for them all to line up at the same time. So I like that, and that could be it. Like maybe during this time, Emu is able to be hurt or something crazy like that, right? Which actually, that is a crazy thought in regards to the emu idea, which I'm going to save till we get to your emu theory you just had.
Right.
But wow. But anyway, anything else for that idea?
Yeah, there was something I still haven't made a video about, but like I do like this idea if Poseidon and Pluton, they're Poseidon and Pluton, I think, Poseidon, Pluton, and Uranus as well. Their reoccurrence in the story, whether it's reincarnated or they just appear back, I would like it, especially now that we got Space Piece. Is Poseidon, I think, rotates around the or Poseidon's Earth days, like the amount of time it has a year is 165 Earth days or something like that. I think that's what it is or something. I forget exactly what that number refers to, but I would like it if that's because we don't know how often Poseidon apparently is rebirthed. They just said like 100 years or so.
Every few centuries or something like that.
Yeah,
vague.
And so like it could be like 165 years is how often Poseidon is reborn. And if you look at Pluton, then it's like every 84 years or something, 85 years or however many days. That could be how many or that's how long it takes for Pluton to be like reactivated. And that's like why you need to wait for a specific time, because then if you take 160 and 80, that would numerically line up to an 800 year at some point. It would just mean Pluton revived 5 or 10 times, and then the Poseidon was 5 times, right?
Right.
And I didn't look in Uranus if that would also match up, but that would be a crazy thing if true.
And tying off to this whole moon stuff, and I want to give a quick shout out to Innocent Cauliflower from Discord. I'm still working on this theory. He sent me this stuff a long time ago regarding Pluton, but an interesting angle to think about with the ancient weapons and all this stuff and like the potential timelines is, remember, Tama's fruit works on moon cycles.
Yes.
And Tama's fruit is about controlling creatures, right? Like, I can only control them for this long once the moon redoes this, and I can't. And it's like, well, like, and this just kind of spitballing, but like, what if the awakening is tied to the control of all these creatures, right? Like what if like a past awakened user is who bestowed the ability to control these creatures to certain lineages, and the power comes back once that lineage factor is like put into a new body every so often. You know, it's like kind of like loosely an idea, but would that mean that Tama could be like god of the forest, like forest god? Because then if she can control animals, forests, like you would be god of the forest, you control all the animals. That'd be kind of a cool thing. And then tying it to the moon, Luffy's things kind of like moon related at this point. That'd be, I don't know. That's kind of I like that. I like that. And I think forest makes sense because forest is all about life, right? Which is why shout out to Matt Cypher, because I know Matt Cypher has been pushing this for a long time, but that's why I think Chopper could be the forest god. It's because he's all about sentience and humanity. It's like the same vibe, though, right?
Yeah.
So,
Matt Cypher's told me a bit about that.
Yeah, and I think I've finally converted. If I had to be honest, I think.
All right, this chopper video that's coming out. You said this weekend, right?
Yeah. Well, like I wanted it to be tomorrow. It should be Sunday. I'm gonna dedicate all. It's 20 minutes, so I should be able to edit it all tomorrow and get it done.
Man, I love that you're making a chopper video.
Bro, I'll send. Have I sent you the thumbnail? I have his awakened form in the thumbnail. Like I had Lee J mock up awakened. Like I love it. I'll send it to you after this. I'll send it to you after this.
Yeah.
All right, real quick, I want to get to a couple other super chat. Actually, you know what, narrator, I saw you had a couple other ones. Yeah, I just want to get to these.
What a dope name, by the way.
Narrator. I know. I'm like, bro, is this Oda? Like, I know. We know Oda watches the channel. You know.
Is this God? Is this guy like the narrator for YouTube for life? Like, what is this? That's so cool.
He super chatted another 20. I really appreciate you, bro. What if Vegapunk made a clone of himself? It just all moved. What if he made a clone of himself not connected to Punk Records that read the true history because him knowing it was unsafe? This clone is the traitor. This clone could also have authority over Seraphims above even Eam. I gotta admit, I love the idea of Vegapunk making another, almost like, I almost think of it of this last one as like a jump drive with the true ancient history info. I know that sounds crazy, but that's like my thought is like, this one won't be connected. I'm just gonna have this in my pocket, and that one gains sentience, like the will, like that, the will of that knowledge in that storage thing is has been doing this. And he's like, oh my god, it came alive. Like that's the reaction.
Yeah, no, I love that because I was thinking like a cheat sheet, like Vegapunk's like, I don't like, you know, like Luffy at with Rayleigh's like, I don't want to know the answers, right?
Yeah.
But like he's just like, but I still like want the answers, so like I'll send one to like learn, and he'll just like chill, and then like it's like similar to like an Order 66, but like a last resort kind of like when shit hits the fan, these certain codes need to line up. And then you come give me that information, right? Just so I know before I die or something. That'd be kind of sick. I like the idea of it. I don't know if the potential possibility number I'd put on it, but I like the idea. That's a dope. Yeah. That's a dope idea.
And I gotta give him props because that is a unique idea. Like that is not something I've heard. Obviously, Punk Records being an AI, you know, a lot of people brought that up. Shout out to 3 Days for coming up with like one of the first Reddit threads that I remember for it. But this is unique, man. This because it's just the like the information has a will of its own. That's like the idea that I'm kind of pulling from it is like once you have the info of like what the One Piece is, the will of D or whatever, like the will of that is really strong, right? Like the strongest, you could argue, right? Like the poneglyphs have wills of their, or like they like speak, right? So it's like the same thing, but to a whole, it's like almost like you have like a mini One Piece, you know what I mean? And it's just, I don't know, doing something.
So here's another route, a completely like this is cracked route, but it connects to my last video. Essentially, like just an idea that stems from it. We could talk it full later, but we don't actually know if Eam is immortal, but not just that part, but like how long Eam has been in the story, right? And like, so when it comes to like an Eam kind of character, it could be something like, hey, just like how Vegapunk was like, is that the White Warrior, right? And then what that does to someone who knows, like you think of like a Hyogoro, right? Hyogoro doesn't even know Gear 5. He doesn't even know Joy Boy or Nika, but he still looked at that and saw, or Gear 4, and he's like, that's a deity. That is a god, right? And if he knew what the White Warrior was, similar to what like King knew of the idea of Joy Boy and said that Kaido is you're my liberator. But at that point, he was basically like, you don't need to be my liberator. You already did enough, right? But the Joy Boy reverence was still there. In that regard, why can't the Gorosei have a flip side, right? Eam being the Dark Warrior, the Black Warrior, whatever you want to call it. And this idea connects to that in that, like, what if Vegapunk created Eam? Eam went there, learned the thing, became this amorphous monster, or it could be a person, and then it just presented itself as the leader now. And then that's when the story started getting crazy, right? When Roger, like after, because this could also be prior to Roger, this could be after Roger.
That's,
like, you know what I mean?
That's crazy, because building off that a little bit more too is like, software always gets updated and over time, you know what I mean? Like I mean, humans, we update our information all the time and like change our decisions and like our outlook on stuff because of that. And like talking about Emu, we don't know how long Emu's been alive. What if 800 years ago Emu was like the equivalent of like Windows 98, you know what I mean? And then now it's, like I don't even know what people consider the best one anymore, but Windows 10, we'll just say that, whatever.
I feel like most people would just be like, that's rude to Linux, but like still it's like that's hilarious to me. Like technology, I think about this actually with AI, right? Like we have this advanced AI, but imagine like a 95, like some random dude who coded in like the 90s or something, when they're like nobody really know coding except for like a select few, and their code just demolishes the AI. Like they ever interact, it's like a bully pushing some kid into a locker, that kind of thing,
Yeah, and maybe Vegapunk's new info, like just his technology and just all this stuff, like maybe like you're talking about, like Emu went there and like became this amorphous thing or whatever. It's like, what if that happened all the time? Like it would go, like whenever someone would find out big info or whatever, then it's just like Ohara, like they went and learned everything at all. Maybe like after they attacked it, because we saw like the books were okay apparently, like maybe Emu actually learned all that, or was sneaking in there in the night the whole time reading the books.
And just like one last main thing on this super chat is like, I love it even more because that makes Vegapunk the character I want him to be. Like there's expectation, there's wants, there's needs, right? Like, and I get that can skew things. I shouldn't expect this of a Vegapunk. That would just ruin the story. But like Vegapunk, you can't tell me that like he knows about the conspiracy of like Ohara. He wants to help the world, and like he can't make it to Laugh-Tale, right? Like he has to be able to figure it out, right? Like he's smart enough to do it.
He's probably reasoned where it is, like that's like my mindset is like he knows where it isn't, like that's the way I think of it. So
I want that to be true, right? But like that's not what's gonna happen. Like he could just, like, obviously I'm not expecting this, but like it could be like a Rayleigh situation, right? Like Rayleigh was like, do you want me to say it? And Luffy's like, no, right? Vegapunk would be like, wait guys, like you need to like fix ASAP, like all this stuff. I can give you where Laugh-Tale is, I can tell you where the poneglyphs are, you don't even need to go find them, like I have them copied or something. I took a picture. And then Luffy's like, nah, I'm good, right? And then Vegapunk could be upset, and that's how we get evil Vegapunk or something. But like at the end of the day, I want Vegapunk to be that level of smart, that Same. It wasn't that he couldn't, it's that he just didn't, or he did, like one way or the other he went there, or he knew about it.
Yeah, that's like my biggest problem with like the Lafitte stuff is like, man, like I don't want Vegapunk to seem like a chump, you know what I mean? Like where he got fooled. Like it's already bad enough that it was in his basement, right? So that's why
the Crocodile angle is better for me, because in that logic he's familiar, right? He has the Stussy buff, where Stussy, yes, the CP0 agent, Kaku and Lucci would have just been hitting lasers, but Stussy like knew, so she doesn't have to deal with that. She knows the camera, she knows largely about Egghead, so like I would love that angle. That's why I like that angle. And then Crocodile is one of the smartest characters in the show, like that's undebatable
for sure. So, and it would just put some respect on his name, which I think we need, at this point.
But even then, Vegapunk should be smarter than like if a Kainu can make it to Laugh-Tale in 2 years, Vegapunk should have made it in 2 days, right? Like that's kind of how I see it. Apparently that's what Oda said. I never like actually fact checked that, but I'm pretty sure that was in an SBS.
Real quick, I want to just another one from narrator, just talking about our chat from earlier about the high tides or whatever. He said that it would cause a super high tide in one location and a low tide in another.
True.
Yeah.
True. Fair.
Yeah. And the thing that I think is interesting about that is like Agua Laguna, like the low tide and high tide part were like right next to each other, which is really weird, you know what I mean? Like normally it's like the polar, like different sides of the planet, you know what I mean? So it is interesting. But I'm definitely with you that the eclipse is going to matter, definitely.
100%. Oda it's already animated. I've been using that animation for so many things.
I wanted to ask you. I saw that, I think, in your most recent video. I think I saw an eclipse animation.
I threw it in there. I think it's in the intro of my video, my first Emu video. I think I threw it in there.
Yeah, it's dope animation. So I want to get to this chat from Saran Wrap earlier. There's 100 bits. I saw it was pretty long, so I wanted to make sure I had a chance to read it first. Basically, the question is, did Vegapunk make Saturn come to Egghead? Like, is he big brain and he wanted this all to happen to draw out the Gorosei, get them out in the open for whatever? Now, and he builds it a couple reasons, but it could be something to do with, you know, like the authority chips. It could be just like getting the a Gorosei member out to like show the powers, or like try to take him out even potentially. There's a lot of options. Like, what do you think? You like that idea that he's baiting him out on purpose, like a Gorosei specifically?
That is not one of the highest potential based off of the context of the story, but I will cope. I want Vegapunk to be that level of like smart.
Same.
I need, like I said, I need it, and the timing of you reading this is actually perfect, because I said the same thing. I saw the bit, so I was gonna remind you, but then it was very long, and I was like, maybe I'll save for later.
Yeah, I'm gonna read it and get the summary, and because it would just take me like a minute to read. But I love you though, Saran Ramp. I know you're always in the Discord. I love you, bro. Just wanted to summarize it, but
one way or the other, I do see that like that potential. I think it's basically like, at the minimum, I feel like we do have to accept that we're getting conflicting information, right? Of someone released the poneglyph information, right, which would naturally bring Cypher Pole an investigation, which should be easily predictable. But then we have the counter that they're also taken prisoner. So then what would happen? You send CP5, CP6, CP7, whatever. That's predictable. And then you have to ask yourself, okay, so then if that was predictable, they are expecting CP0 to show up. Right, that's the progression of things. It's gonna just continue to get investigated. And so if you could predict that far, I would imagine that like Saturn coming wouldn't be super far out there, right? And that would be really cool if it could be on Vegapunk's end, right?
Yes.
The only issue with Vegapunk big braining it is we're getting a situation where Vegapunk is with Shaka alone. He has no reason to have like a facade right there.
Right.
So in the monologue as well, it's like that facade right there defeats it from it being a big brain play on Vegapunk's end, in my opinion. So that could be the big brain play. I just don't know if it would have to be like a separate Vegapunk, like a traitor, like in a bad way for the Stella. Like that's the only way I see that. But we don't know what's happening with Saturn and Kizaru. Like I think that's going to be one of the bigger plot twists of this thing, despite how many plot twists we've already had, right? Like how can you possibly stump like Stussy, just that reveal alone, like the Gorosei, any plot twist has to be absurd. Absolutely crazy.
I'm 100% with you, and I think it would be a feat in and of itself if Vegapunk planned to get a Gorosei out by himself. Like it's almost like a strategic W in and of itself that you have a Gorosei away from Marijwa on his own. You know what I mean? So I like that because it's almost impressive off the bat. And it's like, let's say Vegapunk does like take the L on the basement stuff. Maybe he takes a W on like, well, my whole goal was to get you out here, Saturn, and then like he blows them both up or something. Like, not saying he would die or like whatever, but that could just be a plot line where it's like, all right, well, you may have gotten me here, but I got you here, and it's like they're both geniuses kind of deal. So I like that.
And then the last part at the end, I just remember the ending. I didn't address that part. The dragon thing. I want that so bad, but the reason why it doesn't make sense for Dragon to be competent in any regard in this situation is if this were the plan and the Gorosei were being brought to Egghead and that was predicted, why wouldn't Dragon be prepared to be there, right? He's still on his own island and he's confused about Kuma and he doesn't even know where Kuma's going. Like Dragon's not being shown in my favorite light at the moment. It's not to the point that he's getting super hard trashed around like kids' reputation is, right? Recent chapters, but there was some negative talk about Dragon. Like, how can you let this opportunity go past you, right? Like, you'd want at a minimum for him to have like people watching, like the marriage law, right? Like knowing, like keeping tabs of the Gorosei, right? Like, I think in any like revolutionary attempt, you always have vision of the king, the queen that you're trying to coup. You always do that, and that's like the main advantage of being at the bottom rather than the top. It's hard to hide your tracks when you're the Gorosei, right? Especially if you know the Gorosei. Yep. That's essentially the idea that I'm thinking about with that. It's like I want, but not really. It's not coming out Dragon.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like Dragon is like the master of like not like it's funny because with first time we see him, he comes out and saves Luffy like in the nick of time or whatever. Like, oh, this guy, he moves, like he does stuff, and then Dragon hasn't moved. You know what I mean? Like he's pretty much done nothing. I mean, not like disrespectfully, but like Oda just has not found a way to leverage him yet. Other than showing us like, oh, if Dragon's reacting this way, then it's got to be important, you know. But that's like it. That's like,
I want Dragon to be cool.
Same. I mean, and he will. It'll happen.
Yeah.
So I want to go back. I know I missed some bits earlier. So Time Lord, an hour ago. I'm sorry I missed this, bro. I know we talked about this a little bit, but he said, my theory is the traitor is S. Flamingo, but I have a wild parallel to regular Daffy that I think Oda will make. I think Oda will have S. Flamingo try to kill his father, quote unquote, with a gun, just like Kid Daffy did to his dad. I need that callback.
We talked about that in live reaction.
Yeah, that's a beautiful parallel. Like if again, the issue for me is that you have a Seraphim outsmarting Vegapunk, and it's also the timeline of like the SSG took over for the Warlords like a month ago, and this started 2 months ago. So it's like, were they ready a month before that? And they, you know, but that plot thread right there, I love that. And it could also be going back to the Lafitte stuff. Maybe Lafitte hypnotized S. Flamingo, and it's like S. Flamingo's will is like, it could be just a combination where that's how Vegapunk was outsmarted or whatever, you know, it was like Lafitte was involved, but it's S. Flamingo was the body in there doing the work basically. So
yeah, and Time Lord missed my fate. This is the reason why we talked about it, or why I thought of it in the live reaction. The best parallel is I was memeing on people thinking that if S. Flamingo was there, he'd have his gun, right?
Yeah.
That like, because then that would imply that the parallel is so far that Vegapunk would also be Treble, which would be that you'd get the scene where S. Flamingo gets his green blood and he gets his gun, right? As a kid from Treble, Dofi uses that to kill his dad or whatever, or something like that. I forget what it was, but it was like a gun and his devil fruit. Obviously, the timeline is like flipped a little bit, but that would be the parallel with Vegapunk, where it's just like you get that dark scene where he gives him the gun, and it's like, why would you give a kid a gun? But then people were like, well, he gave Mihawk's Yoru to S-Hawk, right? So then he kind of gave a weapon to a kid. It's not super crazy. And I was like, yeah, but like that's not even Doflamingo's like main weapon. And they were like, no, that is how he's killed everybody. Like he shot Law, even though he could have just like sliced him. I'm like, all right, I guess they're just gonna, if S. Flamingo's here, he's also gonna get the mimic of his childhood gun.
Yeah,
like fine, whatever.
And speaking of Treble, you know, we already saw that Senor Pink had his devil fruit powers taken, right, and like put into a green blood type scenario. What if Doflamingo has Treble's powers? I don't like. Obviously, they could go take Doflamingo's. Like he could just have the string fruit still.
Yeah.
But Treble should be locked up as well, right? And he has like it's like the snot fruit, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I'm, you know, it's just it's just an interesting idea because like Doflamingo's power might be like too strong. Like you know what I mean, like he could destroy Egghead with the birdcage, so he's like, I don't want that here. Yeah. Oh,
maybe, you know, it'd be crazy if that you know, like Doflamingo was hearing the like the assassins.
Yeah.
What if it wasn't assassins? It was just like Vegapunk trying to get his blood.
Yep.
To make green blood. That would be kind of sick.
That's where I'm leaning. Like that they came to extract it, but like you also have to think of timelines again. Like weren't the Seraphim already taking over for whoever at that point? But maybe that was it. Is like just the timing. Like they couldn't get Doflamingo. Like it, you know, they couldn't get a hold of him to take the sample, and so they're like, oh well, now we can finally make this S Flamingo. You know. Yeah. So I like that a lot. I want to get to a couple other super chats real quick. Mr. Bushido super chatted €5. Sorry, I'm getting a little late, or I'm a little late to these, Mr. Bushido. But it just moved again. Seraphim, Garp, S Monkey versus Luffy, Sanji versus Shark is like Judge versus Vegapunk. And did you see my Bartolomeo joins Kid's crew theory? As King, a weak Lunarian with no blue flames. The thing I'm going to build off of the most there is that I love the Sanji is fighting a Seraphim thing, because Sanji has all the hallmarks of a Seraphim without officially being one, like catch fire, swirls, so like kind of like a devil fruit, you know what I mean? It's like he is a devil fruit himself, sort of. Bio enhanced, right? Like just like the Seraphim are, so I do like that. Now, I don't know if the blue flame, I'm interested to know how the blue flame connects. Like what if King saw that blue flame, would King have been like, oh, you're like this special Lunarian. You know, oh, you're not just a Lunarian. Like, we're all
You're
wrong. He's not.
You're the albino Lunarian.
Or like a Solarian, right? Like a sun version.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel like you're only able to answer this question because you have it written in front of you. I feel like I got whiplash hearing that like 6 times. So like I heard like flameless blue Lunarian. I was like, huh? What alternate reality am I in right now?
Hey, I gotta give a shout out to Bushido for being like the most efficient super chatter. You know what I mean? Like gets like multiple theory thoughts into one That's super chat. But yeah, basically, you know, like, are the blue flames a stronger version than, like, can King unlock blue flames? Do you think that's possible?
I don't know. I feel like now that we see white flames, like from Luffy, I feel like it would just be white flames.
Ooh. Right? Or like, I mean, the hair is almost, it's crazy that his hair is white, or like Lunarian's hair is white, and Joy Boy's hair is white, right? Or like Luffy. But I'm going to get to another super chat from Mr. Bushido. Man, my Streamlabs is not... There we go. 2 euros says, Blackbeard forces Robin to help him to spare Luffy's life. My thought on that is that Blackbeard can already read the poneglyphs. I don't know what you think, Par. But I think
he was touted to be an archaeologist, right? Like, that's what his real life... Oda said that's what his he would be in real life, which would allude to him... Like, archaeology is a thing in One Piece, right? Like, that's technically what Robin is, right? An archaeologist.
Exactly. And his hobby, he would be an archaeologist in real life, and his hobbies are history and gambling. So to me, I think there's no, like, I shouldn't say no doubt, I'd be capping, but I think it's pretty likely that that he can already read them. And that's why, because, like, why hasn't he focused on it, right? Like, why haven't we seen him? He's waiting till the right time, so it might be that he doesn't care about Robin until he has the road poneglyphs. Like, what's it matter until you have them all, right? Like, he might know that. But at the same time, I think he can just read them, and that's why he isn't worried about it.
Yeah, but it's also probably, like, he knows Pudding can, right? So, like...
there you go. Pudding can also just take, like, the Roger Pirates memories, which is, like, I don't know if getting the laugh tail works the same way every single time. And I know that sounds really crazy, but... I think there might be like a trick why you can't go take the memories from them and find out where it is. It's like, oh, but
but isn't it also just like the 3-eye thing? Like, they just assume that she can read it, but she can't.
That's true too, right? And she hasn't done it yet, so they might be just assuming. So
yeah,
or she takes the memories out of the poneglyph, which I know, like, you know, Breath of all things. But
the other thing about it, this is also like, I almost would like it if Blackbeard's crew were like a crew that they broke. Like, Blackbeard not only found a way that he himself could have multiple devil fruits, but like his crew. And the reason why I like that is, I mean, I don't want Law dead, but like the fact that Doc Q had the sick fruit, that almost eliminated that he'd get the fruit, because like you have to be, like, the whole thing was that you have to be like medically knowledgeable for it to be useful. And then it wouldn't make sense to break that rule and give it to someone random other than Doc Q. And in that same light, it's like Pudding's fruit, like, maybe that's what Blackbeard wants. Maybe that's the third fruit. Maybe that fruit's more important, but then also, why is she alive, right? So it's a weird situation because we know that she can't read them, apparently.
Right.
Otherwise, Big Mom would have had them. But, you know, it's just, it's an interesting thing. So Blackbeard just being able to hear it or know it makes some sense to me.
Because it could be that he can read the poneglyphs, but Pudding is there for, like, taking Garp's memories so he knows what happened to Rocks, or like what happened at God Valley, right? That's like, to me, because he's one of the last people left that know, you know, what happened there, right? Because, like, Whitebeard's dead. Who knows where Kaido and Big Mom are? You know, who knows when Shiki's coming back in the story, if Shiki even really knows? Because, like, obviously he should know, but also, like, you know, God Valley disappeared and Shiki can fly. So I'm also wondering, like, when stuff got bad with Shiki, like, I'm out, you know, and just flew away. So I'm, you know, not disrespecting Shiki, though. Actually, I think Shiki's top tier. But couple other super chats real quick. I guess I'll just let everyone know now. whatever super chats we have now are probably good. We're going to end the stream here in like 10-15 minutes. I'm going to get to these super chats, and then I want to talk to Par a little bit about his emu theory, because I just want to give you that idea that I had, and then we'll probably wrap it up after that. So so no more super chats. I mean, unless you really, really want to, you know, I mean, we'll I'll try, but no guarantee, because we do have to end kind of soon. But let's see, where's it at? Mr. Bushido, €5 super chat. Emu is a parallel of Enel. His priests are Gorosei. Yama is Kong. Enel nearly took Nami. So what if Emu's servant is Nami's mother? Nami means wave. All those things connect. And I'm also surprised that you didn't bring up your boy Shiki there, Mr. Bushido, because in Strong World, what did Shiki do? He tried getting Nami as the navigator, right? So that's another layer to that. So that's a juicy super chat there, Bushido.
Yeah, I can't wait to. I told Dax a little bit about my Nami theory. Oh man, I didn't tell you it was a Nami theory, but at the very end I did, but I didn't tell you the whole part of it.
Well,
man, I can't wait to share that.
And I don't know if we're gonna have a lot of time to talk about it, but I did want to also bring up like bubbles and clouds a little bit in this stream, because I know those are important in a lot of ways, and bubbles were emphasized in this chapter, right? With the bubble gun. It was like Squirtle using Bubble Beam in Pokemon, except it works on Devil Fruit users. And also, I don't know if you've made this connection in your videos, but something I was just thinking about was, you know, clouds might work the same way, where like, because clouds have pyro blowing or you know, whatever that makes sea stone. So both clouds and bubbles have apparently ability to cancel Devil Fruit powers, like they should. So
the way I saw the bubble thing was like that Vegapunk boosted this bubble. This isn't the normal bubbles that we deal with, right? Because like Luffy was in a bubble most of Fishman Island, and those bubbles didn't, and that was like the resin thing, right? So like Vegapunk inserted the sea stone property into the bubble, and that's interesting for another reason. But I think I really like the logic you're using. That's also why, you know what, that might be why there's not a cloud fruit.
For the same reason as like a water fruit.
Yeah, wow, that's kind of crazy.
That's crazy.
If we ever get introduced to a cloud fruit, you know, I feel like I've never heard people think like, wait, the Umi no Mi could be masquerading as a cloud fruit, because because I know people have wanted like smokers to be cloud. I wanted that, right? But like we haven't seen that, and the reason probably is that it would just be the water fruit. That'd be kind of crazy.
That's, we might have to talk about that after the stream for a future video or so. That's a crazy thought process. Like, it's so funny because in my notes, like I was making some notes, so like I want to make sure I talk about this and this with Par. And whenever I was putting the bubbles thing, I was like, all right, talk about how bubbles cancel Devil Fruit powers, talk about clouds. Like that was like the notes were just next to each other, and I was like, wait, like they both do the same thing now. Like we just, so that, I thought that could be a whole new train of thought, honestly.
I like it.
I want to get to another super chat from Mr. Bushido, €2. Emu is the Irish god Balor, I think I'm pronouncing that right, enemy of the Day clan. I don't know if you've read any of Bushido's like Irish or like Celtic type theories based off that the mythology, but I gotta say there's some to me it's pretty clear that it at the very worst, it's like a parallel of many other mythologies that involve the sun and enemies of gods and all that kind of stuff. But there are like uncanny similarities, and I'm like, all right, like maybe that might actually be kind of beefy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I haven't read Mr. Bushido's ones. I'm assuming you're talking about in Discord. I wish I did, because I just wrote an entire like European thing, not relating to that. But I've had this conversation before. I'm pretty sure Oda has said that if Shanks was in the real world, he would be Irish, I feel like. And we talked about this probably like Voice of All Things, like 4 or 5 or 6. One of those. There's like this crazy island that just sounds like Laugh Tale. Like in like, it's basically off the coast of Ireland. And it's man, I wish we had the time to talk about it, because I think the fact that like Shanks is involved with that, and then you know, the Irish mythology, I think, you know, the Celtic stuff is definitely it's so hard to say like confidently that like Oda has reached out to this many mythologies intentionally and this deliberately, right? Because it's one thing to include mythologies within a story, like throughout the process. Like you make a new island, you design a whole thing that you're gonna incorporate, right? Very different than like pre-imposing that like through Shanks that this is relevant. That's oh man, it'd be crazy if Emu and all that stuff related to that, because that would imply like ancient kingdom stuff. I could see it. I could see it.
To me, one of the biggest giveaways that Oda is like, not that he's combining all of these, but that he's combining a ton of them, which I think we can all know. But some direct evidence is that like Saturn's name is Saint J. Garcia Saturn. Like it's like 4 very separate things. Like Saint is like Christianity or Rome or whatever you want to, like Greek, whatever you want to call it, and then then I don't know what J is on. I mean JD Legend obviously, but I don't know what else other than that. Garcia is like Spanish, like Inquisition, right? I'm not super familiar. And then Saturn's like space, but obviously Saturn also ties kind of back into Roman gods a little bit, you know what I mean? Well, a lot of bit, but Saturn's obviously prevalent in pretty much every or like culture, because it's a planet, so it's going to be important. So it's like Oda's telling us right there, like, hey, here's some important stuff that I'm combining from real world, like in this one name. So got a couple more super chats. Let's see, next one is from Andika Wijaya. I'm sorry if I butchered that, but I might be kind of close. Super chatting 50,000 Indonesian. I don't know. I know the ID is rupees. Indonesian. Rupee, or is it rupiah? That's just a quick Google.
I think it's probably that.
Yeah, whatever it is. Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
I know it's our RUP, and I just assumed the rest.
Yeah,
but rupiah could be the other one, so I could just be assuming. And then he clarified afterwards, because someone asked how much that was, and he was like $3 to $4. So he was just like, I was just like, he could have just kept it as like, yo, I'm baller as fuck. I just sent you 5 bands, bro.
I might have to like get an account with like a foreign currency that's cheaper, so I can make the number big. You know what I mean? Like, so that people don't know, and I'll be like, oh guys, don't check. I promise you, it's a 1-to-1 equivalent. But
like
no,
something obscure too, like because pesos, people know, like that kind of thing.
Exactly. But I appreciate you either way, Andika. Or if I'm pronouncing your name right, I'm sorry if I'm wrong. But we still have the mystery about the ancient giant and why Kuma is also climbing the red line. Love to catch Dax and Par's live stream without staying up late. Appreciate you being here. And as far as the Iron Giant and Kuma, I definitely think those are parallels. Like, I think that's pretty obvious. Like, that's, like they're maybe not for the same reasoning exactly, but we have 2 robots that have wills, or whatever it is, that are now climbing the red line spontaneously, whatever. I think the Iron Giant was a fail-safe insurance policy type thing, because it went up right when the fishmen were joining the Reverie, so that way it stopped them from joining the Reverie. And if you think about it, if the fishmen join the Reverie and get friendly with the world government, then Poseidon is under the world government, right? So from the ancient kingdom's perspective, that is like the worst case scenario. Like, maybe because, like, also not to mention Fishman Island is at the bottom of the sea and is the only entrance into the New World, so it's like extra important, right? And it's also the place that's directly beneath Marijois and can't get erased by Emu, because the beam would also destroy Marijois. So, which that's a whole other theory, but I do think Marijois is going to get erased at some point. I know that's super crazy, but that's a whole other discussion. But
I think the largest point that you just mentioned, I just want to reiterate, is like, Fisherman Island is the only way to the New World, right? Why isn't the Marines putting more emphasis on protecting that, right? Like, getting Fisherman Island is a huge, like, real estate move,
Yes.
Like, the fact that they haven't, like, that says a lot, because they could do it by force, like, if they really wanted to. It's not like Big Mom or Whitebeard were like actively on that island, you know what I mean? And it's not like if they claim that island, Big Mom and Whitebeard would like fight them, and what could the fishermen really do? And it's not like they were necessarily like, loved. It's not like the Kingdom of Hamburg would be like, oh, that's a bad move, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
That would be a move that would just make sense for everybody in the world government. They wouldn't ban eyelash if they took over Fisherman Island. So that kind of, to me, implies like a huge kind of conspiracy kind of level thing. And if it's not something that ever gets addressed, it's not gonna be like that's bad. It's just kind of be like, huh, that's interesting,
Yep. I mean, I think part of it could be, like when the celestial dragons tried to go down there, they crashed, right? And like they had to be saved. So it's like dangerous to go there in general. But obviously they have way more capabilities, you know what I'm saying? Like if you can get one admiral down there, I mean, you're good. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, so it is interesting. It's not a plot hole just yet, but it is kind of a thing that I feel like has to be addressed. Like why is the one opening to the new world not like why do they not build a wall? You know what I mean? Like no pun intended. Like why did they not build a wall? So I don't know. I definitely want to see that get touched on in the future for sure. Let's scroll back up here. Narrator super chatted $5 and said S-Hawk having the dice is my biggest disappointment with Oda since Usopp trying to rejoin without apologizing. Now I'm curious what your reasons are for not liking him having that fruit.
He's a Mihawk is a sword theory hater.
That's what I was about to say. I was about to say, is he not a fan of Mihawk as a sword? Is that why?
Not narrator, bro. I lost the narrator. Not like this. That's crazy.
Hey, I mean, maybe this is Oda telling you, like, hey, that idea was so good that I'm disappointed because I had to do it. You're like, I had to change all my plans. That's the disappointment.
He's trying to, or he's trying to deter me from thinking about it more so that I don't spoil the story or continue to.
There you go. I'm curious, narrator, if you I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat if you want to let us know what you think or like why you don't like that. Because that is one of Par's it's not a full W, it's like a U or maybe like a lowercase W still, you know what I mean? Something like that. But
I think lowercase W definitely is that.
Yeah, it's like
it is Mihawk and it is a sword.
Yes.
So the statement is true.
Exactly. That's why that's why I say capital U or lowercase W, whatever it is, like a single U. Yeah. I mean, I was hyped, man. Like it didn't even hit me at first. And then later someone's like, wait, Par's right. And I was like, it all hit me like, oh my God, no. Like this is like, and that's actually something else I wanted to say towards the beginning, but I know we had like super chats ahead of time and whatever, but we're getting to that point in the story where we're gonna start getting those big W's. You know what I mean? Like, there's only so much time where we get to talk about what is Pluton, what is Uranus, what was the Void Century, what is the we only have so much time, and that's why moments like this, like we're in the eye of the storm, in my opinion, right? Like all the W's are about to come, and like right here, like is this really about to happen? Is Mihawk really a sword? Like is this like this? If somebody like I can't wait till there's like retrospectives of like the One Piece community retrospective, like a 10-hour movie, and it's like once we got to Egghead, like like here's an example, like the trickles of truth are coming through, and then eventually the full W, and here's the reaction, and like it's just like a community roundup of like the journey through the story the last 10 years or whatever.
That's actually a great concept. That I love that, because I was actually talking to you a little bit about a video that just dropped recently, that 6-hour video that was like an analysis of One Piece as like a literary, like should be regarded as like the epics, like things that are taught in school, and just going by it. And that's like videos that will be more popular or more common when the story finishes. And what you just said is so cool, because that's like a fun way where it's like, this is a theory that, like Sanji's one is my favorite one, because Sanji got revealed as a prince of some kingdom, right? And people had that theory for an entire decade, because the moment they thought they heard Mr. Prince Sanji on Little Garden, that's when that theory started. And those people were gaslit for 10 years, but they were still people. And I saw a TikTok like going through that thread, and I was like, whoa, that is so incredible. I love that. And that's gonna happen to so many theories once the story ends, because these larger, crazier theories that have so much like depth, and you can track someone and you're like, wow, that was actually like really like on the mark, you know what I mean? Like how close things were. It's gonna be cool to see.
And even in my head, I'm like, this the way I think of it is like I said, this retrospective video, but whatever medium, you know, this kind of thing comes out in, it would be so dope too to get like interviews from certain creators. Like, for example, like Randy Troy's been around for a long time, so we're talking about this Mr. Prince stuff from 10 years ago. It's like we'll get interviews of people who've been around a long time, and it's like, oh man, like to give like set the stage for the rest of the video. It's like, man, One Piece fans are crazy, and it's like here's like all the theories, and like, you know, we've been waiting for 10 years. It's like you get all these interviews for like all the context, and then we get into this new stuff like Mihawk is a sword and Pluton's a mole and all this, and you know, it's like we can get new interviews like, yeah man, I joined the community in 2020, and you know, and I first thing I heard about was, you know, I don't even know what was going on back then, but you know what I mean. It's just
no, I get what you mean, because I actually said this to Joy Girl. I thought of the question like on the spot, but this is because Joy Girl, she lives 2 lives. So she lives as a content creator, and so much so that her best friend doesn't even know like that. Wow. She makes YouTube videos. Yeah. And like none of her coworkers, she works 3 jobs, by the way. And so I said, that's like, crazy. Wait, hold on. When One Piece ends, there's going to be like news channels that bring on people that are like experts on One Piece, right? Like people who have been with it when it ends. Like that's an actual thing I see, because they do that with other fictions. Like when something is like has a craze of some sort, they bring people on to explain it. They would naturally bring those people, like a content creator, if there's someone who's been covering it for that long.
Right.
And she was like, you know what? I would do that, you know? And I'm like, it's crazy because that might be like an actual reality given like on France national TV, they have like the chapter, like the latest chapter being spoiled on the internet. And it's like, I could easily see that this becomes like a phenomenon at the end of it. Like there was Harry Potter enthusiast, Harry Potter stuff. There was Tolkien. There's so many different things. I don't see why a One Piece wouldn't have that. Even Game of Thrones had that too.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and I want to, you know, I have a video that kind of talked loosely about that, where, you know, like, what everyone needs to get into One Piece now, because it's like such a once in a lifetime thing, like seeing this ending. And then once it does end, you know, like every news outlet or whoever is gonna want to tell the few remaining people who don't know about One Piece that it just ended, right? And like what it is and how big it was, why it was so important. And like you're saying, like those types of interviews I think are definitely going to be happening to like give context, you know, from our perspective. Real quick, narrator, I saw your chat about the Mihawk thing. He said, I'm not against Mihawk as a sword thing, but it's weird to explain. I feel like Mihawk is a true swordsman. Like he would kick or bite in a fight. One sword style absolutism. Yeah, like that's I feel that. Because I mean, I guess it's good that it's S-Hawk. You know what I'm saying? Like if Mihawk actually had that fruit, then I would 100% feel the same way. Like if he had the actual fruit. But I just like the like the hint. This is a type of thing where if Mihawk doesn't end up actually being a sword, this is still like so fun, right? To even have this happen, right? It's like, bro, how did I even get this close? Like what? Like how? So So I'm definitely with narrator on the the one sword style absolutism, like for him, and like 3 sword style or less, I guess, for Zoro. Like I definitely am with that.
One thing I will add, narrator, and this might be a good segue into the conversation that you want to have, is if you watch my latest video, I explained the Mihawk as a sword thing from a different angle, where it could be what you're saying. It's just like the spirit of it, right? Like if the ultimate sword had a spirit, it could be a person. Like that's what we're kind of essentially getting at. It could act, walk, talk, and we've seen that actually happen in the series, right? Like animism is a huge thing, so it's like I think you'd still get what you want with that theory when you boil it down to what the maximum level of it is, which is I can easily see that happening, especially after that last theory I posted.
Yeah, which we will talk about in just a second. Because that was the last. That was the last super chat before the bell, but a couple people super chatted afterward. Right. I appreciate you guys, and one of them was narrator again, who super chatted $10 and said, "I really, really want to," as in like I really, really want to still super chat even though I'm not supposed to. So I appreciate you. I still read it, of course. So I really appreciate you. And friend Harper super chatted $5 and said, "Great stream, guys. OP community, best community." That I think we can all agree on. the One Piece community, I mean, that's why I'm here today. That's probably why you're here today, Par. It's
Yep.
it is, I mean, you know, it's not that I really know necessarily that other communities are worse. It's not that perspective. It's that I've had nothing but positive experiences with the One Piece community, and it's like, I think you and I may have talked about this a little before. I know King Recon and I talked about this a lot, where it's the One Piece community is probably one of the only communities where when someone says, hey, I'm starting that show you like, we get like in defense mode. Like, oh, what episode? We can't let you get spoiled. Don't go on the internet. You know what I mean? Like, we can't, like, this is so sacred. Like, you going through this journey. Like, and I'm not saying other animes don't do that. Like, they try to spoil it. I'm just saying, like, One Piece, we know how important the story is. We know how much it means to us. We know how much it hit us, you know, on our first time, second time, third time going through it, all that kind of stuff. So it you know, it's One Piece community is really special. It's like no question.
Yeah, the other part too is like friend Harper commented later saying like some channels are gonna have like identity crises when One Piece is over, and that is completely valid. I mean, surprisingly, a lot of the creators kind of have contingency plans. Like Jay works a full-time job, right? Like he has his master's. Joy Girl's the same way, and like every single person, like they had something else or do something else that's just like so incredible. And I'm like, you can sense like the quality of creator. I think we talked about this. You brought this to my attention that like the One Piece community, especially on YouTube, is super extremely competitive. Like nothing else really, because nothing else talks about like. There's not this many people for the same niche. Usually it's like a few, like even for the largest video games you think of, there's like a few top creators and then everyone doesn't, you know, whereas the One Piece community, it's like, no, like we are consuming a lot of One Piece here, so much so that there's multiple huge creators, and it is a niche, but it's like one of the craziest niches that is in existence. And so like to pivot the two things together is that I think if you guys viewers, right, like especially if you want to start making content, right, if you end up getting a community, no matter what size it is, they get 100 people, like, and these are people that you wouldn't have met otherwise, like in real life. These are internet people, right? If you would tolerate these people for the next 5 years, however long One Piece is, that is like the more deep than like any other form of like internet content, right? Yeah. And so like I think you'll end up liking the creators in the One Piece community a lot more than elsewhere. And then so when things pivot, if some creators stay, if they don't, I think that it's more about the community but for the creators, because it's so hyper competitive, right? Like the only way to really do things well, and that's why there's so many people in the chat right here. 100 people is not a little amount. That's a lot of people.
Exactly. So, and it's also like, you know, we just had the chapter yesterday and we streamed, and like we, you know, have triple digit people in there, and then we get on a Friday night, you know what I mean, when usually people are, which I hopefully I can I can get the money to go out and go start traveling and doing more fun stuff. But Friday night's usually the night to go and party and stuff, you know what I mean? And it's like, and not saying it's like a bad thing, it's just like, this shows how strong the community is, that like no matter when you do it or how, like I said, we just had a chapter yesterday. Oh shoot, I just dropped my water. But no matter what time it is, like people, like One Piece is just like so prevalent, you know what I mean? Like the community follows everywhere, and it's amazing. You know, like I said, like it's just, we're really in the eye of the storm now, you know.
You saw the mark. It's the YouTubers we met along the way. That's like more dystopian than what I was getting at, but
I love that. Also Saul D. Mark. He said Joy Boy wrote 2 books, like talking about the other side hustles, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. Probably more important than a side hustle at this point. But yeah, once you get to the first book, it's more than a side hustle. The second book, it's that's a legit thing. But yeah, shout out to Joy Boy. If nobody knows, Joy Boy Theories wrote a couple books. It's like a series called The Booms. I have not read it yet, but I did order a book. And I definitely, that's someone I really want to get on the channel at some point, so I gotta reach out to him. And also, I guess this is a good time to shout. I haven't watched it myself, but I've had a bunch of people mention it. Where Rogers Base had a stream last weekend where they did like the emu art contest, and it was like Tekking and Joy Boy was there, and Joy Boy I guess shouted out the Lafro tail theory because it came up as part of the like one of the art entries. So I have not checked that out. I really should have, so I can give that person a shout out. I retweeted the person's tweet. I can't remember your Twitter handle. I'm so sorry.
I don't even think, honestly, it wasn't even related to the stream. I think like something came up, and then Joy Boy just went on a not a tirade, but he was just like, "Bro, it's a great theory." Like he was talking it up. I love to see it. Like he's like a lurking supporter. You know, like that one, like your one, like basically in Patreon, like your sugar daddy. You know what I mean? Like Joy Boy was playing hard for you.
Oh, bro, I gotta reach out to him then. I mean, it's so funny because I think I've told you this before. You know, like for me, there's like a kind of a Mount Rushmore, or not even want to call it a Mount Rushmore. That's like maybe like my personal Mount Rushmore, I'll put it that way, of One Piece YouTubers who like influence me in some way. And it's like I think I told you, it's like you to me almost like took the torch for Joy Boy theories, like in my like as like because back whenever I first got into it, he was the one where I was like, oh, I need to hear like the big time theories. Like one thing that he's always talked about and I love is Ghost Piece. That's something he's always talked about. Like in Wano, he's like, I think we're gonna get it. Like not necessarily people coming back from the dead, but just like the will that exists because people die, or like that afterlife that still is there, whatever. That's gonna come into play in a big way. And that's
he's right.
That's something I've been like 100% on ever since, and that he's been saying that for like 3-4 years. You know, like that was like that's one of many things. And I need
to see this video. Can you send it to me after?
I'll see. It's like I don't even know if he has a video called Ghost Piece. He might. I'll go back, but it's more of like during his chapter reviews, which I used to watch religiously, which I still should, because he like responds to comments, which I love that. But it was just like I think this is where we're going, like all these like for example, I remember this somewhat vaguely, is like all these lanterns that like carry people's wishes, that talk about like I wish my like mom was still here, that type of stuff, like from Wano, like the lanterns that were floating up. It's like I bet you these could be an avenue where like they carry these people's wills that tie to the dead people, and like there's graves everywhere, like all these swords that were taken from the grave, right? Like they took all the swords from dead swordsmen's graves. Like are those going to come back and like give a power up to the samurai? Like it's just like loose things like that. There wasn't like a specific example, and I was always like yes, like one of those, yes.
That is a version of what like the video, right? Like that's an idea that's essentially there. Wow, that's a Ghost Piece. That's a cool one.
We might have to get him on a try stream, get all three of us, because I'm so on. I mean, I've talked about the Brook. I mean, Brook's obviously my favorite character, and then I've talked about him fighting Vasco Shot, where Vasco Shot's gonna have an ectoplasm fruit like tying to the underworld and stuff. So we might have to talk to him. But okay, I'm gonna answer these last two things, and then I want to talk to you about your last video and my idea that kind of couples with that, and then we'll end the stream. But €2 super chat from Bushido. Tier Nanog is the island Par mentioned. I also saw it. I presume that's with the Celtic stuff or Celtic stuff we were talking about.
That wasn't the same island, but there was another one that if you combine this one and that one, I think it's perfect. So
okay, I'm gonna have to go reread Bushido, or well, I probably have it already saved, so I'll just go look at for some of the Celtic stuff that you sent me in the Discord, Bushido, because I might have to refresh myself, because I mean I've already shouted it out, but it's definitely going to be important, I think, or at least a good parallel. And then Time Lord used 25 more bits and said, I feel like we're also in the eye of the storm in terms of the story too, because once someone knows what the One Piece is, when they get their hands on that chapter, the world will find out, and after that I don't think anyone would not know what's going on. We're in the one time where we don't know what the treasure is. Yes, that's 100% it. It's like when I say we're in the eye of the storm, it's like even deeper than that, where it's like, I mean, we'll never get this time again. Like the eye of the storm makes you think like, well, we'll get another storm later or whatever. Like, no, this is the only storm. Like, you know what I mean? That's going to be of this caliber. So it's
because like right now, Attack on Titans is getting their second storm, and they're like squeezing out the end. For the very last drop. But that is another storm, right? Because one, it's been a while, but then also it's like apparently the ending could be, AOT's ending isn't touted as one of the best from what I hear. I don't actually know it, but like it's not exactly like that. Whereas the One Piece one, bro, this is like, it's not even a storm. It's like if you could give like a hurricane like a Richter, I mean like level 5, but like
right,
like this hurricane will cause an earthquake. It's gonna be crazy.
like I mean, don't get me wrong, like, you know, Harry Potter and Game of Thrones and all these other media, like I'm not trying to like talk them down at all, but like finding out what the One Piece is, like very few stories set up a thing in chapter 1, have the whole story built on the name, like the story's called One Piece and we don't know what the One Piece is. Like very few times is that set up for 20-30 years and there isn't like a clear answer, you know what I mean? Like that,
Yeah,
just it's impossible.
Like, most people will answer that in like the 3rd season, but then stretch out the series even longer, even though it's like this story should have ended already.
Yep.
But like One Piece is like, nah, it kept true to it. It's like, nah, we can't do it that way. We just gotta fit stuff in the middle. And it's like, yep. Oh my goodness. Like I'm imagining that like they'll just like how the One Piece is real, spread through the internet with all these different like inside joke kind of like meme things. It's like, what is One Piece? What is this? Why are there a bunch of like, you know, why was it edited like this? But like if you were within the One Piece community, you kind of like understood it a little bit more, but it still spread it, right? Versus when One Piece ends, there's going to be so many of those where people are going to reenact scenes. There's going to be trends on TikTok, and there's going to be a part of the world that doesn't know and a part of the world that's just like devouring every bit of that, because that is like what I would imagine like my reaction to the One Piece, right? Like that would be a trend, right? People would start there. Sojay, like just anything, any monumental scene could easily become like a meme or a trend or whatever, and then it'll spread beyond the story. It would be so cool.
Yeah,
I see it already.
Yeah, it's saying like it almost brings a tear to my eye. Like it's almost like when Roger and his crew went to Laugh Tale and they all cried, like they laughed so hard that they cried. That's us. Like Oda was that was Oda giving us a foreshadow that like we're gonna do, like maybe not Luffy, like maybe Luffy will actually be, I think Luffy is gonna laugh, but that's a whole different discussion. Yeah. But I do think that's gonna be us though. Like that's 100%. Like we're gonna be so excited and laughing. It's gonna be funny, like unexpected, blah blah blah. So I can't wait for that. But all right, let's get into your recent theory, because this is the thing we've been kind of dancing around, and the thought I had on it, I think I was messaging, I think it was 3-Day, I think, and I was like, oh my god, like I had like a brain blast of an idea that actually ties to shadows.
Ooh, okay.
But why don't you just give a quick summary? I know your video is long, so it's going to be hard to do that, but just, I don't want to butcher it. Give us a quick summary of your idea for Emu.
Mm-hmm. So I think like the video is long, not because the idea is that like crazy, but it's more so to set up. If you're doubtful of the endpoint, I give more than one way to set up the idea, in that all objects in One Piece have souls. That means all objects are sentient. This isn't just like this is a One Piece rule thing. No, that's Shintoism. Like Shintoism is a belief system in Japan it's regarded as religion, but it's unlike religions in that there's not like a holy text or a sacred text. There's not a founder. There's nothing like that. And the reason why that's significant is that despite all of that, it's the reason why Japan has such a unique culture in their like gratefulness for everything. So like the main example everybody knows is like itadakimasu, right? You know that as like giving thanks to food when you eat it, but what is described in Shintoism, it's every person who's handled that food gives thanks to it. So the person who brought it to your table, the person who cooks it, the person who farmed it, the person who planted it, they all do that because everything is alive. So everything needs to be treated properly. Even a keyboard, even a desk, all of those things are deities because you use them. You should treat them kindly. It gives, in that context, like humans are beneath all of the objects because we are a derivative of a deity rather than these objects being deities themselves. And so the reason why that's important is because that's what I see being reflected in the story. Like swords are the most important objects in One Piece, and there's one other one, and we see a progression of sentience where from the first sword, it's just a normal sword, to the latest sword, almost killed Zoro just by enacting its own will. That's how powerful its will is. And then we see something like the Going Merry, right? The Going Merry was able to repair itself, able to sail itself to Eni's lobby. It was shown a humanoid figure. Frankie even goes on to say it manifests a human shape. That's how strong the Going Merry was as a will, that it was able to do all those things, manifest a form. So my point is like, well, the Mary is not a significant object. The reason why it came to life was just so much love. But if you increase the power or the level of the object, surely the spirit of it would be greater. We see that throughout the thing, right? Lower tier sword, greater tier sword. Well, the greater tier sword can kill you. The lower tier swords cannot do that. So if a low tier ship, which the Mary truthfully is, then what would a greater ship can do? Like what can the Pluton do? And so the end point of that is essentially here, where when we're talking about it, a huge thing that I referenced in that was this speech before we went to the moon. Like everybody listened to these speeches because this was the precipice of us landing in outer space. And so in the UN, they talk about this concept that the Earth is spaceship Earth, and it was reiterated in Japan from the Peace Belt that the Earth is a spaceship, which is where me and Dak have a theory that essentially connect.
And by the way, just real quick, I loved those real life references that you put in the video. Like you had multiple examples of real life where people are like, basically, hey, we got to get our shit together. We're all on a spaceship, and if we ruin the ship, we're dead. You know, like we got to. Yeah. So, anyways, continue.
And I'm glad you pointed out, because another reason why the video is long is because I help try to make it narratively make sense as well. And so when you listen to the other parts of that speech, there's keywords like liberation, there's keywords like crew, and the specific things. There's a whole line about half things, hybrid things, that kind of thing. Ancient enemy of man, all buzzwords for One Piece. And that came at a time when that would have been in Oda's youth. That would have been very important. The space race was a worldwide phenomenon. So every one of those speeches would have been heard many times over. And especially because it came back to Japan and was reiterated a few years after we landed on the moon, 2 years after we landed on the moon. So the moon thing was a huge thing. And so continuing back on summarizing, what I basically say, if the Earth can be considered a ship, then wouldn't it have a Klaboterman, right? We were told about the Klaboterman stuff. And the point being is, with an object or sentience so grand, you combined everything that we've seen of objects in the past and put that all on Eam. Well, the Going Merry was able to control itself, repair itself. That would explain how the Earth could be able to be manipulated by Eam. Right? In the same light, one thing that's not explained is Enmo is able to shrink from Odin's size to Zoro's size. Like that could be easily explained if the object has such a strong will in itself that it can control its appearance, right? That would explain that away easily. As a sentience enough to kill Zoro, I wouldn't be surprised if it could resize itself. And it's something that sounds goofy at the start, but then it would make more sense in hindsight, because that is exactly like the idea that these objects are sentient. That's how objects get romanticized in a lot of ways in fiction, especially in Japan. So that's kind of the end stage of it, but that's enough to go off on what you want to bring up. Yeah,
well, first off, I want to say, tying it to some of the stuff you said there at the end that I really like, is the protecting itself idea, right? So if Emu really is the Earth's Klabautermon, which, by the way, where did we first see the Mary's Klabautermon? On the sacrificial altar in Skypiea, right, with a sun god that was they were doing sacrifices on that altar a long time ago to the sun god. So you're telling me the place where we saw people offer to the sun god is where the ship first comes alive, right? So that's just, like, to me, like a mind-blowing, like, Okay, like that puts an extra onus on the Klabautermann in general. And then you talk about the protecting itself. Now you think about what the Ancient Kingdom was doing. So I've talked a lot about how the Ancient Kingdom terraformed the planet, right? That's why the Red Line, like, that's why the Lunarians used to live on it, but at the same time, the whales were able to swim. Like, it was just not shaped the same way, right? Like, they've been terraforming, and that's why the Lunarians can live in harsh conditions and whatever, because they probably lived, or like, they may have went to Earth when it was still a molten rock, right? And they just made it into what it is today.
Or you could look at the other way around, where it's like, I've talked about this in separate things, where I essentially say that, well, we both point out that islands are said to be made by volcanoes. And one of my ideas was that originally the Lunarians came from a volcanic land. Like they lived in a volcano. That would explain so much of their thing. And so if you tie that to what we just said, that volcanoes make islands, that's a real world thing, that's a One Piece thing. So that would make sense that they would be able to create land and do all the things, and that's the reason why the world looks the way it is, like Dax is saying. So I definitely subscribe to that.
And tying it all back to the like, it's saving itself or protecting itself idea. It's like, maybe the Lunarians or Ancient Kingdom or whatever, you know, terminology you want to use, maybe they were going so far with their technology that they were putting Earth at risk, right? And so that's where it all comes together, where the Klabautermann, which is Emu, came to be, because maybe the Ancient Kingdom was going to try like, for example, maybe they were going to try some like nuclear reaction to try to get like more energy, and it was going to blow up the planet, you know what I mean? And Emu knew that, and Emu was like, nope, stop the press, like, we're not, like, we're done. So something, and you talked a lot about like some like different history of the world type stuff. Japan obviously had, you know, some issues with explosions over the years, you know what I mean, like some of the, you know, worst events. So it's the same thing. Emu prevented that, you know what I'm saying? Emu wanted that to stop, right? So and I guess I'll just mention my idea, just because this is a perfect segue, where it's a very similar thing. You know, you've talked a lot about shadows before. Doesn't the Earth have a shadow? It's the side that the sun can't see.
Oh shit, that's crazy.
Like, and just think about what, and Emu's already like always silhouetted, right? So what if Emu is the Earth's shadow, and it's just living, like, now is it attached to a corpse, or is the corpse like the Klabautermann? Like, what if there is a Klabautermann for Earth, and then someone attached the shadow of Earth to it, so it's literally the Earth, you know what I'm saying, like the personification of the Earth in total. Like, and because it could live with having a shadow, it could live out in the sunlight as well. Like, not that Klabautermann can't do that, but I'm just saying, like, it would be almost like a complete person, you know what I'm saying? Like, they have a shadow and a soul.
That's crack. Oh my god, I made those theories, but that's so cool. The Earth,
because it's the side the sun can't. And we've talked about eclipses earlier. What if just real quick, we're waiting for an eclipse, so it's all dark, because that's the only time Emu can like fight, or like the Emu can be hit, or you know, it's a point of weakness for Emu when it's all black, because like the shadow. Or maybe it's a point of strength where the shadow can take over the whole planet temporarily and eliminate everyone, or who knows. But the shadow factor, to me, I was like, bro, like that, it's the opposite of the sun, but like it's also, the shadow doesn't exist without the sun. So there's like so many plot lines there.
Nah, dude, that's beautiful. I don't even like, I want to make a video, but like, dude, that's so cool. The shadows theory coming back like that. But here, let me hit you another part to it. In both of those videos, I essentially dropped the same bar, which is, this might explain black blades. In the shadows theory, I said the same thing, and then in the last video, I said this idea might explain black blades, but I never go on to explain it, and it's kind of just, a lot of people came to the intuitive answer.
Shadows.
They were like, that in the shadows one, they were like, wait, what if it's the shadow? What if it's the shadow that is superimposing itself on the blade, right? And so the spirit, whatever, it's much durable that way.
Oh, dude, and that's why like you won't get any nicks on your sword or whatever if you do that, because like the shadow has to get cut, and like you'd have to be a master of all sorts of swordmanship to cut shadows.
Yeah. So that is one part, right? So that was a seed planted in the shadows theory. I've been holding on to that one. And then the recent one was like, wait, like what if black blades, because I put out this short too, what if black blades are when the spirit is like taking over like the sword, and the sword is like in alignment with its spirit, in sense like the
Right.
Cloboderman is in existence, meaning implying again that my Mihawk is a sword thing. Mihawk is the Cloboderman of Yoru. Mihawk is the Cloboderman of a sword, one way or the other. And then Shusui would also essentially have some variation of that, where maybe it got weaker with the Ryuma thing. I don't know. But the essential point being that there's a world where that is where we get black blades, and oh my god,
dude, so many things are connecting. Like, it's
Because-
so funny because like I said, like I literally was just making notes like for this stream, and I literally was just like, all right, like, you know, Klabautermon, whatever, and or like, well, it wasn't this stream, but it was earlier. Like I watched your video, or at least the first part of it, and I was like talking to 3-Day about emu ideas, and I was like, oh, this is the first thing. Well, not the first thing, but this is the first thing I'm putting on the list to talk to Par about. You know, whenever I made my notes,
I'm gonna spoil this other part of my video. I need to. So the thing is, right? I said emu is a Cloboderman, but I didn't say it in the video because we don't know if Cloboderman are tangible, right?
Right.
So like in a power
Oh.
thing, it's confusing because if emu is a shadow on its own and it's looking for a vessel, I don't know how to explain it, right? Then emu versus Luffy just doesn't make sense. How do you beat that? Is that why it's unbeatable? But the thing is, at the same time, that might be why emu needs the Gorosei, right? Because if it can't interact with the world, that's why it needs the hands, the Gorosei.
Okay.
Like the 5 fingers, 5 people. And so it might, in the shadow thing now, that could solve a whole another side, that maybe when he is able to merge with the shadow, right? When Earth's shadow's like the strongest because of it's like reflecting on the moon. I don't know.
Or like the moon shadow and the earth shadow mix, so they're the same shadow, and he's able to
like that.
I mean, and it's so
Ooh.
crazy because like there's so much shadow stuff you could take from this, because I even alluded to this earlier in the stream, but if you look at One Piece, I think there's a good argument that you could say like it was gonna, like, pre-time skip was the original story, but then once Oda got his contract extended, like in Skypiea range, like around that time, then he changed things up. Well, what's like the final arc before we really get into like Saba Odi and all that stuff? It's Thriller Bark. And what shows up after Thriller Bark? Those giant things, right? And also, like I said, Thriller Bark is like you don't even know it's a ship until later. It's almost like, I mean, it's not quite this, but it's like a similar vibe to like, you don't know life is a simulation until later. Like, you don't know that you're in a bubble until, you know, like, wait, you know, whatever. It's like the same thing. Like, they didn't even know Thriller Bark was a ship until later. Like, they just waltzed into it, kind of. Yeah. What if the Earth is a similar thing? Like, what if this little solar system we have is in a bubble, talking about bubbles earlier, and it's like, you know, this whole thing has been like orchestrated, you know, and just going back to the Shadow and Thriller Bark idea, it's like, you know, Emu's just been like the shadow, like overarching this whole thing this whole time, right? So yeah, I mean,
I can extend this conversation so much, but where I will, there's another idea, maybe I'll share later, but I need to sit with some of these ideas. So the other thing I said in that video was that while the Earth is a candidate for a Cloboderman, sure, if you watch the Shadows theory, you could see how that concept can get minimized in a lot of ways to equalize it, so it's not even that crazy. I'm not gonna explain that right now, but I will say in that video, I said that the Cloboderman Eam could just be the moon's Cloboderman, because the moon technically was treated like an actual ship in NL's cover story, and the people abandoned it. So that would explain why there was a reason for an emu presence. The Cloboderman's unhappy, whatever thing. Like, imagine like a Twisted Mary, for example, like a Mary that had more emotions. And so in that context, a solar eclipse would be nasty, because then the moon's shadow would be on the Earth.
That's what I was about to say. Yes.
Yeah. So that is a whole another angle that video takes, where it's like, I can't even put those two things in the same video. That's how separated those are, but they stem from that original video. This is Ooh, I'm loving the Cloboterman angle.
Oh, bro, same. I mean, like, it's funny because I think I've talked to you before, like a lot of my ancient weapons theories are animal based because like I love animals. Like I have a lot of pets. Like Clobautermon are almost the same thing where it's like the ship is a pet and it becomes sentient because it loves you so much, right? And I'm like, bro, yeah, exactly. And also tying to just the ships a little more is like I think it's really crazy that our first ship was the Going Merry, which ties to like joy, right, like happiness. And then you could also look at the second ship is the Thousand Sunny for crossing 1,000 seas with all sunny days or whatever, right? It's like so joy in the first part and then sun in the second part. And you know like and I just had a video about Luffy's dream, which I think ties to the sun, and it's like. That is just to me like talking about Clobautermon too. Like if Luffy's ships indicate his dreams, wouldn't it make sense? Like kind of at least that a Clobautermon would be the other side of that, right? Like the Earth, you know. Yeah. So I love the Emu Clobautermon idea because it could also it's all about loving your ships, like love and will and all that. So
yeah, it's one of those crazy ones that continues to grow. And then my other favorite part about it is it recontextualized so many of my previous theories that otherwise, if you couldn't look at those videos alone and think like, oh, Emu's a Clobauterman, right? But what's crazy is in hindsight, yeah, like they all do very seamlessly connect in other clues other than what I just mentioned.
And one other like clue. Yes. And one other clue, or maybe not a clue, but just a potential parallel is, remember Brook in the time skip? How he was like summoned by like the evil people or whatever, and they're like, oh my god, like Satan's here or whatever. Yeah. What if and also I mentioned that on the sacrificial altar is where the Clobautermon was first seen. Like Mary's Clobautermon was on the sacrificial altar, so it's like we have a Clobautermon being first seen on a sacrificial altar. Then we have the guy who I have theorized a million times has connections to Joy Boy, and he was summoned like in the by people like praying and wishing or whatever. I'm almost getting the vibe that like Emu, like basically the Gorosei or maybe like the 20 kings of the past or whatever, like did the same thing. Like they were willing this thing to become like sentient. So like, hey Earth, we need to save you because we're all gonna die if you don't step in. Like, you know what I mean? And like what if the Gorosei love the Earth so much? Which maybe that's probably part of your theory roughly, but like the Gorosei loved the Earth so much because they wanted to protect like all the kings, even though they're shitty. It's like maybe they actually did have like more eye towards like protecting the Earth than the Ancient Kingdom did, and that's why the Earth sided with them. And it's like seems evil, but it's like, well, the Earth's job is to stay the Earth, like that, you know, like the Earth wants to just keep being a floating rock that can support life. Like that's all it cares about, you know. So I love it, bro.
Man, there was something that you said in there I'm like forgetting right now because there's a new thing.
I threw a lot at you in the last 15 minutes.
There's so many cool ways it can go, honestly.
Well, here, real quick, let me interject with the last super chat of the night from Narrator because it does tie to this a little bit, so it's a good thing to build off of. So thank you again for the $10 super chat, though. My thought is every living thing has haki or a will, which I definitely agree with. Everything that is manufactured is imparted haki by the manufacturer, i.e. poneglyphs and swords. Agree with that as well. Voice of all things is listening to the wills or the ghosts, and I agree with that too. It's everything. You know what? I think this is a good time to bring up Frankie, because Frankie's whole story with Tom was, hey, like the things you build are basically your kids.
Yes.
You know, like anything you build, like even if it's an inanimate object that, you know, like you built for this different purpose, like I don't care what it's used for. Like you have to take care of it. Like you have to love it. And that could be the whole story with the Ancient Kingdom is like they love the Earth, and the world government loved the Earth, and the Ancient Kingdom was maybe taking it a step too far with their technology, right? Like what if the sun is inside the Earth? I know that's like the craziest thing, but like they did that, and it's like the Earth was like, bro, we're good. We got to stop doing this, you know? So
man, it blows my mind because Narrator's first one was, I don't like the Mihawk as a sword one, but like if you watch this video that I just posted, it agrees with you. Every part of it agrees with you. And then he's like, but the Mihawk as a sword one doesn't. It's like, it's the Oh man, it's similar. My
Yeah.
next video is it has more to add to a lot of it, but um yeah, there's just the Klaboterman angle just makes so much sense, and it would
Mhm.
also play really well with like the the emotional angle, right? When I think
Yes.
about the
Yes.
most emotional point in pre-time skip, the Mary is always brought up in conversation, right? And
Every
it's about
time.
a ship, and it's like, how Oda would it be if, yeah, the ship and the Earth, like, you got that same emotion that seemingly is like so impossible to do, right? Like, it doesn't matter if we see that the world's like dying in front of us and we're just like, whatever, we don't really care. But like Oda trying to push that message, trying to get us to care, right?
Yes.
That's another whole angle in that, between memories and voice of all things. That plays really well. It connects. I think it connects a lot of dots. It'll be interesting to see, because I think at the minimum there's going to be some Kabataman action. Whether this is the full aspect, we'll have to see, I guess, right?
And I just want to quick segue into, we are going to end the stream soon, so everyone, if you have not seen Parvision's video on the topic that we've been talking about, definitely go check it out, especially if you're skeptical, because I promise you the info in there is going to convince you if we somehow didn't hear. So that's I mean, we talked about it before you released it. You know, ever since you said that, I was like, bro, this is like low key headcanon for me, because it's just like I said, it's very similar to the pet vibe, you know, like just the animals loving you, or like will of loving creatures, whatever. So
I'll add one. This is one of the things I was going to mention. This is an exclusive on Daxstream. I don't know if I'll get to the video soon. It takes me a while to get to part 2 because Oda is throwing so much at us with Egghead.
Yep.
The part 2 is where we differed. Was you in your Earthship theory, the red line was a steering wheel, right? That was the terraform thing that was made.
Yep. And real quick, just because one addition, 2 seconds, is also, I think Oars was Joy Boy, the original Oars. And what's Oars' name? An oars, like on a ship. What are oars for? Making the ship go. And so just bring in, and he's also Oars as a giant, right? Or like and Joy Boy could have made it even bigger. So then you have a guy named Oars who's responsible for controlling the spaceship. I just thought that's hilarious.
I don't know why. I just thought there was different factions. Like, all the ancient giants were named of ship parts. And so like Oars was like a lower class one because they're like the grunt, but Wheels was the top ancient giant. That'd be crazy. Like, because this is that'd be kind of fun.
Or just
the rudder.
Or just every giant was a different name because they had a different responsibility. Like in the crew, like maybe Joy Boy's crew was all giants
to make the Earth maintain the Earth.
Yeah, like to be able, because like since they changed it so much, they had to like do upkeep on it, right? And
or maybe those are the people that the ancient kingdom had to beat. You know, that's another way to look at it. Like the ancient giants were the Klaboterman's crew. Oars was the oars of the Earth, and then they got replaced.
Bro, there's so much there. Honestly, someone just mentioned to me, like I think it was a comment on that Redland video with the steering wheel, where they're like, bro, Oars' name is like literally like Oars. I was like, bro, stop. Like, I can't believe that never dawned on me.
That's so funny. So the exclusive that I'll give is my version of the red line is, and we might see it through the reverse mountain. Like, when I think about the Mary and what was wrong, it was that the hull was cracked. That's what was ultimately the problem. It was expensive to replace it, and at that point it was just better to get a new ship. I'm forgetting the full context of it.
Yeah, that was it.
I'm actually going to do a deep dive. So
you got it. It was cracked. It was cracked, right?
So, and the other part I think about it, the way they patched up the Mary, they kind of like the Mary's neck, they just put like a band on it.
Yes.
And I was thinking, what if the red line was that band? That band was essentially to stop the Earth from just breaking or destroying. But the thing is, like, the whole point of it, and you understand it more in the context if you watch the video, if there was a reason to leave the Earth, but like the Klaboterman wanted everyone to stay, then that would be a fix that would be made, right? To keep the stall times. And then the reverse mountain kind of looks like a crack in the red line, right? That whole premise of the reverse mountain is still unexplained. How does water go upwards there, right? Like, if that were the hull of the Earth and that is cracked, that's a whole new context now. And a few people commented like, yeah, that could explain why destroying the earth is what Luffy was foretold to do, and maybe that's what needs to happen, but like there's something else involved there. So
Man,
it's interesting.
the red line being the whole of the ship.
That's why I was gonna make a part 2 on
It's the same shape, bro. Holes are the same shape. It's literally like half of a red line. Also, this is just another, just because it's on the, I'm thinking of it. You know, like Luffy's straw hat is a sun with a red line around it. You know what I mean? Like that's what the straw hat looks like. It's a sun with a red line. True. You know, so and also, and then I brought this up before, maybe in a video, but definitely on a stream, where if you remove the Earth's crust in the water, it would be the straw hat, like the molten core of the Earth with the red line only. That would look like the straw hat. And so that might be a sign where once you can get inside that, right, like inside the red line, inside the molten part, that's where the One Piece is. And that also goes into the afro stuff, because like the straw hat goes on your head, so it's like inside the straw hat and the red line and all that. So
yeah, no, that there's
a lot of symbolism. A lot of symbolism.
A lot of sauce here.
And I also agree, the part about like that's where like the water is going upward, that's like so weird. And this is a whole other thing we probably don't have time to go to give it its proper justice, but you know all about like my, you know, Davy the whale thing in the center of the earth, and like that's where the laugh tail is, all that kind of stuff. Well, I think what's going to happen, if that's true, is that whenever Luffy, like the way that they break the red line is coming up in Reverse Mountain, because it's cracked, right? Like it already has, it's the weakest point. Like if he were to destroy the red line, he would come up through Reverse Mountain from the bottom, because he's already under it, like in the core of the earth. And then that would also be where they meet Laboon again. So how cool would that be, where like the way that they meet Laboon is by like coming with another whale that's like several, you know, sizes bigger, and they're like, hey Laboon, we destroyed it for you, like you're welcome, you know what I mean? And like it's also Brook gets to meet him like all at the same time, like all the happy stuff. The whales are meeting, right? Like the old Laboon basically being Davy, and the new Laboon, like that would just, and like you said, like that's like where it's cracked. That would be a whole other thing where it's like, you know, like Joy Boy's ship is returned, so he's like destroying Emu's ship, kind of, right? If that makes sense.
I'm probably gonna have to expedite the second video. I'm going to do a few Usopp videos. Maybe that's the second or third one. So,
a lot of work to do, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you get to that in just a minute, because I'm gonna read these last couple super chats, and then we're gonna go for the night. Good. So. Appreciate you for sticking around. Usually these are 2 hours, but I had a feeling, you know, once you get on here, we're gonna keep talking. That's how it goes. Whenever we're on stream together.
It wouldn't be a Parvision stream if it dragged on forever.
Right, exactly. Umbrella gave me a couple super chats. Oh, just moved it all. A couple super chats. First one, I think these are Singapore dollars. Yep. First one said something about Dad Vision. I just keep moving it. Where's it at? Dad Vision clapping cheeks. Yes, he is. Hey, that video, I mean, like I said, we talked about it before, so I didn't even really need to watch it, but I definitely did anyway. By the way, the magnum opus joke, man, that was so funny, bro. The magnum opus. I'm calling everyone's kids their magnum opus the rest of the time. That's so funny. Did you come up with that yourself, or is that a thing?
Yeah, I was just writing, but then what happened was Magnus Opus, I remembered it as like Magnum Opus. That's what I wrote in my head, like when I was writing the script. That's what I wrote. So when I went to go type it, I was like, that's not right. That's absolutely not right. And so I looked it up. And I was like, oh my God, it's Magnus Opus. And that's where the joke came in. And then I thought about how funny that is. Like, Magnum kids.
And bro, it was just also Magnum, just whatever. If you know the joke, you know. If you don't, come to the Discord. We'll talk about it there. And then Umbrella also gave me another $6.98 in Singapore dollars and said, sprinkling some Singapore dollars. So I appreciate you, bro. Thank you, Umbrella. I guess I need my umbrella to shield me from the Singapore dollars that you're sending. And then Narrator super chatted $5 more and said, I like the Mihawk as a sword theory. I'm just not on board with it yet. I'll watch the new vid after this stream. Hey, that's perfect. That's all we can ask. You know what I mean? That's the most we can ask for. So, all right, guys. So we are going to get off here in a minute. But Par, you got anything you want to plug? Any future videos or streams or what have you?
I think I'll be able to, depending on what I do tonight, maybe this weekend I'll be able to get out a Roronoa emphasis on Roronoa, Zoro video. That is what I'm working on right now. Has to do a lot with European history.
And Terra?
It's not a
And Terra?
No, actually, it doesn't have to do with
Okay.
Terra. I'm splitting this up. This is specifically to address the concerns on the SPS, but more so, this has been a theory that I've had for a while. It's just one thing was confirmed, or very new information to me at least, that makes something very important and now connected so many dots. It explains, as a teaser, explains the Shusui. It explains 100% the Shusui now to me. So
oh wow,
that's my teaser. And so yeah,
get hyped
thank
for that.
you. Yeah, thank you, chat, for being here, for entertaining me as well, because I've been reading all the comments. A lot of fun things being said. And thank you, Dax, for having these.
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
glad you're reaching out, talking to all the creators weekly. It's a lot of fun. Hope you have a lot of fun with this series too.
Hey, my first stream on your channel, the first thing you asked me is if I was having fun, and and I guess it's a good time to announce this is so I mentioned this before, but I am officially planning one this time, so it'll happen. But every break week, I want to have a group thing where I get like 4 or 5 people together, not like too big, but 4 or 5, and I want to get like variety of sizes of creators, right? Get some small people that I know have great ideas and need some more shine. Maybe some people who just got monetized, just get little sampler.
Yeah.
And we're definitely going to be doing one, and that's a question I want to ask all the new creators, is like, especially the ones that like are like, just now, because I think it's always fun to talk about One Piece, but I think maybe that's just my own experience, but like very few things are as fun whenever not only does the video do well on YouTube, that's always great, but then everyone else vibes with the theory. You start hearing people mention like, oh, this person's theory, it's like, oh, it's my theory now, that's amazing. And I kind of want to give a little bit of a platform to people who I know have awesome theories, and maybe not like current because they're newer or whatever, they aren't getting the same views. So I want to ask them that too, because that's all, having fun is what it's all about, right? And that's what we're all here for. So
the way I see it, and the reason I ask you, is like, when we have fun, we should say it out loud. And I feel like these are, in terms of memories, it's like it's also fun to, even if like 10 years One Piece is done, to be like older and you think about how fun and goofy these times were. It's like you can see it, whether it's in the chat or you make the content, right? Like, again, what Dax said, it's not about the size, but even if it's like 100 viewers by the end of the day, that's a lot of people underestimate that. Yeah, make it a hobby thing, casual thing. It doesn't have to be content creator level thing,
right? But
like, you get to see like an etch in history. Like, I was having fun there doing this. That's so cool that like it makes you able to tap into your mindset.
Yes,
it's such a cool thought, and so like these videos were doing that. I just love to see people proclaiming the good times,
Yeah, and man, that's a big reason why you and I vibe together so well, man. Like, you and Hidden and Preach and all my other homies, it's just, and that's the One Piece community in general, I think. Like, right. maybe it's emphasized sometimes more, but that's just like what really gets it. We all know that's the thing, right? We're all here to have fun and enjoy it, and I think these are the types of things where, 5, 10, 15 years down the line, we're going to think back to nights like this, or big reveals and chapters that we all got to celebrate. And, like, it's really, like I said, like, we're never going to get another chance. That's the main thing. So, well, with that being said, I want to give a shout out to Joy Boy, who just subscribed. Thank you, Joy Boy. They definitely need him on my team. Not Joy Boy Theories, just the actual Joy Boy. That's all it says. Like, damn. So, and one other thing, just because I saw Adam Jinrakai, I don't know if you're still in the chat or not. I saw you earlier, but we shouted out your tweet at the very beginning with the face on the ceiling. That was amazing. So I don't know if you're still here, but that was amazing. But all right, guys. Well, that was it. Thank you all for, just being active and the super chats and everything. It was amazing. Definitely we'll be back next week. I don't know who the guest is just yet, but there will be one. So